Chapter 671 Happy. Jing. What's wrong with you? Grandma Wan also found out that something was wrong with Chiyo. Because Chiyo was insane. Grandma Wan was afraid that her illness would relapse. So she kept observing her from time to time. Chiyo smiled bitterly. It's okay. Mother. I saw Sister Yinner's 2 children, and thought of my 2 poor children. I was a little distracted for a while. Grandma Wan hurriedly called Fubao. Fubao. Come here. Fubao was next door. When she heard Grandma calling her, she slid off Wan Lao and ran into the inner room with her short legs. Grandma. What's the matter? Fubao asked while holding on to the edge of the Kong. Come and see your Aunt Jing. She's feeling a little uncomfortable. Shui had heard too many rumors about Fubao, saying that she was a little miracle doctor. But she didn't believe it. She thought her husband loved this little girl too much. So he exaggerated. But when she saw Fubao giving Chiyo acupuncture with her own eyes today, she was surprised that such a little kid could treat people properly. Old Lady One saw Chui standing aside in shock, staring at Fubao without blinking. Yenner. My daughter lost 2 children. So she became insane. If it weren't for my daughter would not be cured now. So thanks to my granddaughter, when I first knew that she had medical skills, I was just like you and didn't believe anything she said. But she also cured my illness. Now anyone in the village who has a headache or fever comes to see my granddaughter. She doesn't charge people for it, saying that she is doing good deeds and accumulating virtue. Shui's heart was in turmoil when she heard this. Insane! Such a disease can be cured? This is comparable to a national master doctor. It turned out that her husband was not exaggerating. But she was short-sighted. Fubao gave Chiyo acupuncture, and Chiyo felt much better, and the irritability in her heart was suppressed. Aunt Jing, how do you feel now? Fubao. Aunt feels much better. Thank you. Aunt, can I feel your pulse again? It has been half a month since I felt your pulse. Okay. Chiyo gave Fubao her wrist. After a while, Fubao looked a little strange. She looked at Chiyo's belly and saw a faint gas, which was not very clear. Seeing Fubao didn't speak for a long time, Mrs. Wan thought Chiyo's illness had relapsed, and asked nervously, Fubao, what's wrong? Why don't you speak? Chiyo's face was also full of tension. She said that she had just had an illness, and it turned out that she was not completely healed. She was a little annoyed. Aunt, do you remember when your period came? Fubao asked crisply. Chiyo shook her head. I don't remember. I was always confused before. It was better in July. But it seemed that I didn't have a period at that time. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with my body? Will I not be able to have children in the future? Chiyo gradually became excited as she spoke, and the whole person looked like she was going crazy again. Aunt, calm down. Take a deep breath. Listen to me. We should not be excited at any time. Okay. Now follow what I say, and calm down first. Fubao slowly guided Chiyo to calm down. Aunt, you are very healthy, and you can have as many children as you want. Do you believe in Fubao? Chiyo nodded. I believe you, and trust you the most. That's good. From today on, you have to change your diet and stop taking our medicine. I will ask Aunt San for a recipe later. You can take it back when you leave. Eat according to this recipe in the future. After half a month, I will ask Aunt San to change your recipe and rotate it. During this period, if you feel nauseous and want to vomit, these are normal. Remember what I said? Chiyo nodded blankly. Remember? I will definitely eat according to the recipe you gave me. And I will definitely not eat randomly. I don't want to get sick again, and don't want to cause trouble for Jiawei. He said that he will be able to help the second brother manage the shop soon. We will be able to be self-reliant soon. I can't hold him back. Chiyo's focus has always been on her illness, and she didn't think about anything else. But Mrs. Wan and Chui are both normal people and experienced people. They heard something wrong with Fubao's voice. Fubao, is your Aunt Jing? Grandma Wan was overjoyed and was about to ask. But Fubao was quick to respond and interrupted her. Yes, Grandma. Aunt Jing is already well. Fubao secretly winked at Grandma Wan, who understood and immediately smiled and said, That's good. That's good. Aunt Jing, are you tired? Do you want to sleep for a while? Fubao looked at Chiyo's tired face and asked with concern. A little bit. I don't know why. I've always been sleepy recently. And it's past dinner time when I wake up in the morning. Because you have just recovered from a serious illness. Your health will be a little worse. You need more rest. It's okay. You will be fine in a few months. Fu Bao coaxed Chiyo to sleep in the guest room in the west wing. Grandma, I just diagnosed that Aunt seems to be pregnant. But it's still early, and I can't feel it very accurately. And I can't see it clearly. It may be too early. Now is not the time to say it. If she doesn't get pregnant by then, it will be another blow to her, and will not be conducive to her recovery. But I still have to tell my uncle to let the servants take good care of her. I will go to check Aunt's pulse again in half a month. And then I will know whether Aunt is really pregnant. Oh, you are so thoughtful. Grandma almost ruined the matter just now. Grandma, I am just considering the problem from the perspective of a doctor. Grandma, you don't have to blame yourself. Grandma is also concerned about Auntie. Shui was observing Fu Bao every move, and found that this little girl was really amazing. Not only was her medical skills amazing, but she was also very good at speaking and doing things. This girl was simply a smart person. No wonder her husband always talked about his female student. Now even she liked this little girl from the bottom of her heart. There were 2 tables for lunch, all of which were delicious dishes with good color, fragrance and taste. Because there were rare guests at home today, Wan San's wife almost showed her own housekeeping skills. The meal took nearly an hour to finish. Shui wanted to help, but was pulled by Wan Er's wife and Wan San's wife to chat with old lady Wan. Chiyo slept sweetly and long, and didn't wake up until her stomach growled with hunger. Wan San's wife left lunch for Chiyo and kept it warm on the stove. After serving food to Chiyo, old lady Wan asked Wan Er and Wan San to take Shui to the next yard to clean up. Just in time for Shui to settle down. Today is Mid-Autumn Festival, and it is also a good weather. Before it is completely dark, a full moon has slowly risen from the east. Every household in Shitsi village has money to buy a mooncake this year. The Wan family yard is full of people at this time. The men are drinking and admiring the moon around the table, and the women are sitting under the osmanthus tree on the other side, smelling the sweet fragrance of osmanthus and looking at the full moon like a bronze mirror. A different emotion flows in everyone's heart. Chapter 672 Signing an Agreement with the County Magistrate. Wan Lauer handed over all the business matters of the Wan family to Jia Yanbing. Wan Lauer received 2 kinds of seeds from Jia Yanbing and Shinjin Yuan respectively. One was cotton seeds, and the other was a seed that Wan Lauer had never seen before. Wan Lauer focused on studying how to increase the yield of these 2 seeds. At the same time, Jia Yanbing began to work on the land leasing plan. This plan was a series of plans that Fu Bao had thought about after telling him his ideas. After formulating the plan, Wan Lauer took Jia Yanbing to find Shinjin Yuan. Second brother is here? Please sit down. Shinjin Yuan was still as enthusiastic as ever. After all, most of his achievements in office would depend on the Wan family. Sir, this is Mr. Jia. Fu Bao teacher. We have discussed that if we want to increase our border income, we are going to rent all the land in the hands of the people. Large areas of land are connected together, which is more convenient for cultivation and management. This is the plan we have formulated. Do you think it is feasible? Wan Lauer handed the plan formulated by Jia Yanbing to Shinjin Yuan. Shinjin Yuan frowned and took it. It was a thick stack. From why the people's land should be rented, how to manage the land after renting to maximize efficiency, to the salary and benefits of the people in the future, the price of renting land, the arrangement of personnel, etc. All the aspects that can be thought of. Jia Yanbing listed them in the book, and made detailed explanations and plans. Even Shinjin Yuan felt that there was really no reason to refuse after reading it. But the land was all in the hands of the Wan family. What to plant in the future was not something the court could control, which was somewhat risky. Jia Yanbing seemed to see Shinjin Yuan's worry. He said respectfully, Sir Shin, if you are worried that the crops grown by the Wan family will not meet the court's regulations in the future, we can sign a contract with you to ensure that the crops grown are edible and can bring economic value to the court. Shinjin Yuan sighed. It's not that I don't trust you, but you probably know the current situation of the court. Our country is short of food. The war has been going on for 5 or 6 years. The treasury is empty, and the soldiers on the front line are short of food and clothing. The court has clearly stipulated that all cultivated land must be used to grow food, and the court's official documents have recently arrived in our border counties. This year's tax revenue will be 1 more bushel per mu. Wan Lauer was silent. After a long while, he said, Sir, don't worry. We won't cause you any trouble. Our borderland is barren, not as rich as the south of the Yangtze River, and there are not many types of food that can be grown. And the output is pitiful. If the court asks to add 1 bucket of tax per moo this year, I don't know how many people will freeze to death during the spring festival. Shin Jin-yuan took the plan and asked as if he had made up his mind. Second brother, I just want to ask you one question. Now that you know that the court is going to increase taxes, can you still pay the people according to the price in this plan? Although all the expenses this time were paid by Wan Lao. He only knew how to farm. And he didn't know anything else. It was all studied by Jia Yanbing and Fu Bao. Wan Lao subconsciously looked at Jia Yanbing. Sir, the reward remains unchanged. But there is one thing we need to ask you in advance. Jia Yanbing answered for Wan Lao. Mr. Jia, please speak. Shin Jin-yuan admired Jia Yanbing's talent in his heart. If this person was willing to serve as an official in the court, he would surely rise to prominence. Jia Yanbing was not polite, and said what he was thinking. Sir, if we develop a high-yield crop from the land at the border, but this crop is not edible, can you agree to allow us to plant it on a large scale? But no matter what we plant, we will eventually hand it over to the court as food. Can you agree? After listening, Shin Jin-yuan pondered for a long time before asking, then Mr. Jia means to exchange the high-yield crops you grow for food? Sir Shin, you can understand it this way. I can promise you. And if you can sign a military order, I can also lend you the wasteland at the border for free. But you have to pay an extra bucket of tax per moo. Jia Yanbing laughed softly. Sir Shin, your deal is a bit unfair. We open up wasteland for the court for free, and we have to pay an extra bucket of tax. How can this be considered as a loss for us? I can rent it to you for free for 15 years? Shin Jin-yuan threw out the biggest benefit. Even so, 15 years later, we will have already turned those wastelands into cultivated land. When the time comes, Lord Shin will repurchase them, and the court will still reap the benefits. Shin Jin-yuan saw that Jia Yanbing was flexible in his response, and knew that the other party was not unwilling, but must be trying to gain more benefits from him. What are your conditions? Lord Shin, let's not beat around the bush. We are all smart people, so let's not calculate. In this way, 15 years later, these lands will be rented to us first. If the Wan family does not rent them, the government can rent or sell them to others. How about it? And even if we rent, the price of these lands will be 30% lower than the market price. If Lord Shin agrees, we will sign the agreement. Shin Jin-yuan thought about it for a while, and agreed. Reclaiming wasteland is also an assessment indicator for officials. Okay, I will draft an agreement and follow what you said. We will sign the agreement today. But whether the people are willing to rent it to you or not, you have to figure it out yourself. After all, the land belongs to the private property of the people, and the government has no right to interfere with whether they want to sell or rent it. I understand. But I would like to ask you to do a notarization at that time to avoid instigation and wrangling by those with ulterior motives in the future. That's no problem. After all, it is a good thing that benefits the country and the people. I support it. Jia Yanbing's method of going against the landlords of Daki is indeed refreshing. After all, landlords rent land to people without land to cultivate. But the Wan family is the opposite of those landlords. They rent land from the people. This is unheard of. In fact, the difficulty of renting land from the people is much less than that of renting land from those landlords. I guess the biggest difficulty you encounter should be those landlords. They may not give you the land in their hands to cultivate. Shin Jin-yuan warned the two of his anticipated problems in advance. Sir, we have also thought of this, but we have our own way to deal with it. Thank you for your reminder. The two successfully signed the agreement in the county government and returned to Shitsi village. Mr. Jia, I also want to know what the method you just mentioned in the county government to deal with the landlords is? Wan Lao thought all the way, but he couldn't think of any good way. He felt that those landlords would never hand over the land in their hands. Chapter 673 Notice causes controversy. The setting sun was like blood, sprinkled on the modeled city wall eroded by wind and sand. Outside the city, the boundless yellow land stretched to the junction of heaven and earth. Jia Yanbing bathed in the afterglow of the setting sun, and his heart was filled with complex emotions intertwined with endless urging and deep tranquility. He leaned against the wall of the carriage and said slowly, although the border is vast, there are still a large number of people who have no land to farm. They rent the land of the landlords, but they may not be able to afford the food and clothing of their families. Am I right? Mr. Jia, you are right. There is a big landlord in the village next to us. I heard that everyone in their village is his tenant. But every winter there are people in their village who freeze to death or starve to death. People say he is Joe Popey. It is true that the land in the border is barren, with strong winds and sand and little rain. So there are not many types of crops that can be planted. And the yield is not high. 1 mu of land can harvest 2 stone of grain, which is considered high yield. Right? Indeed. I remember that when we first came to the border, I heard that many families could harvest 1.5 stones of grain per mu of land. If they could harvest 2 stones of grain, the whole family would have to water the land every day. But what does this have to do with how we rent land from landlords? Juan Lauer still didn't understand. Brother Juan, if it were you, would you rather work for the landlord or for me at the price we offer? Of course I'd work for you. Juan Lauer blurted out that at least the price they offered could support his family. Juan Lauer seemed to understand something and exclaimed, "Ah, I understand. Is Mr. Jia planning to attract those who originally worked for the landlord to work for us? Then, the landlord's land will not be cultivated. Either the tenant's treatment will be improved, or the land will be given to us." Juan Lauer is really smart. This is what I plan to do now. Juan Lauer blushed like a child when praised by Jia Yanbing. He scratched his head embarrassedly. I'm not smart. Mr. Jia has said so much. If I still don't understand, then I'm really stupid. But I have another question to remind Mr. Jia. Juan Air. You say, we are at the border. Unlike the interior, the people at the border are rough and will send people to kill if they disagree. I'm worried that we will be too conspicuous and will cause a disaster. After all, the foundation of the Wan family is still Qian. If these local tyrants gather together to boycott us, it will be a bit tricky. I think if we piss them off, they may threaten the people who rented the land to us. Jia Yanbing looked at Juan Lauer with a new look. Juan Air, you are very thoughtful. But don't worry. Although these are a bit difficult, don't forget the role of Lord Shen. We are not fighting alone. Lord Shen has been on our ship since he signed the agreement with us. If he wants to be promoted, he has to do something for us. Otherwise, how can this benefit fall on him? Juan Lauer quickly stopped the carriage and turned his head back and said, Mr. Jia, have you calculated it from early in the morning? Did you know that Lord Shen wanted you to rent wasteland? Juan Lauer was shocked. What kind of person is this? He has calculated Lord Shen from the beginning. I just happen to know the points of their performance evaluation. Do you think Lord Shen is stupid? Doesn't he know that this local snake is difficult to deal with? Doesn't he want to use our hands to properly rectify the chaos at the border? Juan Lauer felt that his brain had become a mess. It turned out that Lord Shen was also calculating them. My brain is about to explode. Forget it. I don't want to think about it anymore. It's useless to think more. I'd better go back and study my seeds carefully. As long as our seeds can grow crops with an acreage yield that is 20% higher than now, those landlords really can't do anything to us. Juan Lauer's idea hit the nail on the head. Whatever he said was empty. The yield was the king. Whoever had the high-quality seeds would be the boss. Juan Air. So, you are the key to the victory of Lord Shen, and I in this game against those landlords. Juan Lauer suddenly felt that he was fine again. It turned out that he was the most important link. Mr. Jia, don't worry. I will study it carefully when I go back. My family just bought a lot of land, so I will use it for experiments. Juan Lauer was in a very good mood at this time. He had never felt so important before. The two chatted all the way until midnight when they returned to Shitsi village. Jia Yanbing family lived in the yard of Wan Qingmo's family. Wan Qingmo's family would definitely not come back. So this yard would be for Jia Yanbing family to live in the future. The next day, Jia Yanbing prepared a notice and asked the people of Shitsi village to post it in all the villages under the jurisdiction of Jinwu town. Their plan this year was to develop the land in Jinwu town first. With a good start, it would not be difficult next year. After all, who wants to live a hard life? As soon as the notice was posted, all the villages were like pouring water into a hot oil pan, and they started to boil with crackling. Even the villagers of Shitsi village stayed by the notice at the entrance of the workshop for an entire afternoon. And no one even had the mood to go to work. Village chief. Is what is said in this notice true? Yes, village chief. The Wan family has opened a workshop. Does that mean they want all the land in Shitsi village to go to them? Then won't we have to work for them for the rest of our lives? That being said, the money they give is not small. It's almost the same as our income from farming for a year and a half. If they really give me so much wages, I'm willing to rent out my land. I think it's okay. I heard from a relative that the government seems to be raising taxes this year, and the tax rate will increase by 1 bushel per mu of land. Where did you hear this news? Is it true? Everyone was talking at the same time, and the village chief was getting a headache. Okay, everyone, hurry up and work. If you can't finish your work today, half of your wages will be deducted. The village chief stood at the highest point and shouted at the crowd. As expected, money is still effective. When they heard that they were going to deduct money, they quickly dispersed. The half-day wages were several coins. The village chief saw that everyone had dispersed, so he called his wife to watch over them, and then hurried to Lao Er's house. He also wanted to ask clearly what was going on. Such a big thing. Why didn't they say hello to him? The village chief? It caught him off guard. The village chief came to the yard of the Wan family, and several elders from Shitsi village were already standing in the yard. Uncle? Uncle Lu? Are you all here? The village chief saw that they all looked unhappy, so he knew that they also came here after hearing the news, and they were one step faster than him. Wan Lao Er and the village chief looked at each other, and the village chief asked with his eyes, "What do you want to do?" Wan Lao Er, "Let's talk about it later. Persuade these people to leave first." The two of them played a riddle in front of several people. Finally, the village chief rubbed his hands and sat on the other side of Wan Lao Er. As expected, the head of the Jin family looked at the village chief with a sour face. "Jinyo, this land is the lifeblood of our people. If you dare to incite everyone to rent land, I will whip you with a whip." Jinyo felt very wronged. "Uncle, I don't know about this either. They didn't discuss this with me either. I just came here after seeing the news." Chief Jin stared at his nephew for a long time, and when he saw that he didn't seem to be lying, he let him go. But Chief Jin immediately set his sights on Wan Lao. This was the trouble caused by their Wan family, and he came to the Wan family to cancel the notice. Chapter 674 Opposition from the Clan Leader. Jin Ju, I admit that your family saved the lives of the whole village and brought everyone a good life. Last winter, our village had a rare one in 100 years without starving to death or freezing to death. This is all due to your family. All of us in the village are grateful for your great kindness. But what does this land mean to us? I think you should understand. Right? Clan leader Jin is over 70 years old and is considered the oldest man in the village. When he said this, his voice trembled, showing his deep love for the land. Wan Lao certainly knew what land meant to farmers, but he was not the one who proposed this plan, and he had no reason to convince these old people. He hesitated for a long time and did not say a complete sentence. In the end, Jia Yanbing stood up. "Old sir, we know that land is the foundation of people's survival. But we are not taking away the land from you. The land deeds are still in your hands, and the ownership of the land is still yours. 100 years later, these lands can still be passed on to descendants. There is no contradiction. What is the problem that old sir is most worried about?" Jia Yanbing couldn't understand. There are obviously ways to let everyone live a better life. Why are everyone so excited? Jia Yanbing originally thought that once the notice was posted, everyone in the village would definitely celebrate. But now not only did no one come to ask about renting land, but a group of people came to oppose it. It's not Jia Yanbing's fault that he didn't understand, because he had never been to the land and didn't understand that land was more important than life to the people. He didn't understand this kind of emotion. Humph. You are the one who instigated it. Right? Since you came to our village, the Jinju family has changed so much. You must have drugged them. As the patriarch of Shitsi village, I am expelling you on behalf of all the villagers. You will leave our village today and never step into our village again. Patriarch Jin was very excited. He stood up tremblingly with his crutches, as if he could fall down at any time. "Uncle Jin, don't be angry. Don't get angry and hurt yourself. This is the husband of our daughter. The idea was not his. It was my own. I just want the people in our village to live better. And I am not forcing everyone to rent land to me. It is all voluntary. If Uncle Jin doesn't want to rent, then don't rent. Let's not hurt the harmony." Wan Lao saw that the situation was developing in an unpredictable direction and quickly stepped forward to mediate. The Jin clan leader snorted coldly. "If that's the case, I go back first." Wan Lao immediately escorted the Jin clan leader out of the yard. The village chief followed behind him and was pulled away by the Jin clan leader. He had something to say in private. Wan Lao returned to the yard and saw that Jia Yanbing was still calm and did not show any anger because of the Jin clan leader's rude words. Wan Lauer felt a little better. Mr. Jia, I'm so sorry. You're doing this for everyone's good. But they don't appreciate it. In my opinion, let's just forget about it. You may not understand what land means to everyone. Jia Yanbing took a sip of herbal tea, smiled slightly, and said confidently, Brother Wan, believe it or not, someone will come to sign the agreement tonight. Wan Lauer was slightly surprised, then smiled gently. Mr. Jia, why are you so sure? Because of interests. I believe that interests can drive people to make the most correct decisions. Haven't you heard a saying? People are born to pursue profits. As soon as Jia Yanbing finished speaking, Fu Bao also ran out of the house. Dad, I believe in you. Everything is difficult at the beginning. It's okay. Just like when we first started planting potatoes. Do you remember? Wan Lauer smiled bitterly. Of course I remember. At that time, everyone in the village laughed at me and said that my family was crazy and planted poisonous things. I didn't expect that it has only been 2 years, and the whole county has reached a point where it is hard to find land. So, don't worry. Dad, you have to give everyone some time. Right? Leasing land on such a large scale will definitely not be completed overnight. My husband and I plan to complete it within 5 years. Now it's only the first year. There's no rush. Fu Bao is much calmer than Wan Lauer. Wan Lauer looked at his daughter and Jia Yanbing, who had the same expression, and couldn't help but burst out laughing. Daughter, look at you and Mr. Jia. It's true that what kind of teacher brings out what kind of student. The tone of speech and expression are exactly the same. Fu Bao said playfully, I was originally Mr. Jia's student. What's so surprising about my similar behavior and temperament with Mr. Jia? Jia Yanbing smiled and touched Fu Bao's little head, feeling quite relieved. He had never thought of accepting an apprentice in his life, but he ended up accepting such a caring apprentice. However, Wan Lauer felt that Jia Yanbing must have underestimated the determination of these people. If no one came at night, he would find a way to prevent Mr. Jia from losing face. Wan Lauer racked his brains to think about how to save Jia Yanbing face while waiting for the night. When the last rays of light fell, the villagers in the workshop also went home in groups. In the past, they would greet Wan Lauer when they passed by his house. But today, everyone seemed to avoid Wan Lauer's house. And Wan Lauer was not seen at all. Wan Lauer's heart sank half. It seemed that the notice issued by his family offended everyone in the village. And even the village chief was gone forever. Wan Lauer walked back with his hands behind his back and sighed. Jia Yanbing was teaching Fu Bao to play chess in the yard. This girl was very talented. He only told her some rules, and this girl could play with him in a proper way. Mr. Jia, it's going to be a tough night. Everyone didn't even see me after work today. It seems that our plan is going to fail. Jia Yanbing was still calm and unperturbed, not affected by Wan Lauer at all. And he and Fu Bao went back and forth. Mister, I lost. Fu Bao pouted and threw away the white pieces in his hand. Aggrieved. Remember, you can lose the game, but not your momentum. Besides, you are already very good. You have only learned for a few days. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they wouldn't even touch the door. Fu Bao smiled. Thank you for your praise. Mister, I will work harder. Seeing that the two didn't take his words to heart, Wan Lauer sighed and went into the house to talk to Mrs. Wan and Mrs. Wan Er. Mom, tell me, are Mr. Jia and Fu Bao ideas feasible? Just now, I deliberately chose the time to get off work and stood at the door. But I didn't see anyone. Are they deliberately walking around our house? Do they have any opinions about our family? Mr. Jia and Fu Bao were not moved at all. As if they didn't hear what I said. Tell me. Old lady Wan was holding a little one. One was Wan Yu. The other was Jia Sanyan. And the two little ones were secretly playing finger games below. Can you hold your anger? Even your daughter is not as good as her. Even if no one comes. What have we lost? Did you send money or something? Wan Lauer smiled and said, No, but I am afraid that because of this incident, I will become estranged from the people in the village. We all live in the same village. We will see each other every day. What should we do when we meet in the future? What should we do? What can we do? It's nothing. Now the whole village is working for us. And half of the village is drinking our well water. Can they still turn against you? The master? Use your brain and think about it. Wan Lauer felt a sense of helplessness, as if she was disappointed in him. This Lauer is suitable for farming. It's better not to ask him to do anything that requires thinking. Wan Lauer didn't know that the old lady was complaining. If he knew, he would be so angry that he would vomit blood. Chapter 675. The village chief is the first to come. After being scolded by his own mother, Wan Lauer has become more open-minded. He thinks that the worst outcome of this matter is the same as now. How bad can it be? But what if it succeeds? When everyone has no worries about food and clothing, they will definitely thank the Wan family. The night in September has been noticeably cooler. Jia Yanbing and Fu Bao put away the chess pieces after playing the last game of chess. Sir, it's getting late. Should we open the door to welcome guests? Fu Bao glanced at the sky. It was already the time when the moon was in the middle of the sky. Under the moonlight, her big eyes were more black and white. And she was very smart. Like a little elf. Yes, it is true. Banksia came over and put away the chessboard. Although Old Lady Wan said that to Old Man Wan, she was still a little worried in her heart. She was born and raised in the countryside, and had been dealing with land all her life. So no one knew the villagers' concerns better than her. However, Old Lady Wan had experienced a lot. So she was more open-minded and indifferent than these villagers. Although land is the root of life, that is only in years of good weather and good harvests. If there is a severe drought or flood, the whole village will move. But the land cannot be moved. Chui brought her 2 children, and now also ate at the Wan family. There was basically no fire in the yard next door. This was Old Lady Wan's intention. At this time, in the east room of the upper house, Old Lady Wan, Old Man Wan's second wife, Chui and Hohat were all listening to the movement in the yard. Old Man Wan's second wife looked a little nervous. Her thoughts were the same as Old Man Wan's second wife. She was always thin-skinned. If she got estranged from the villagers, it would be difficult for their family to gain a foothold in the village in the future. Squeak. The door was opened by Jia Yanbing. Wan Lauer stood under the eaves and saw Jia Yanbing and Fu Bao go to open the gate. His originally worried heart suddenly became nervous. He didn't dare to enter the yard, but just stood under the eaves and looked around. The moon was bright tonight, and tomorrow would definitely be a good day. Everything in the yard could be seen at a glance. Wan Lauer's hand tightly grasped the door frame, anxiously looking up. But the door was so small. What could he see? The woman in the room heard the sound of the door opening, and couldn't help but prick up her ears to listen to the movement outside. Especially Chui, who was the most worried. Although she had lived a rich and noble life before, she met such a warm family in her downfall. She sincerely hoped that Jia Yanbing could help the Wan family start a new career. This was a start. Mr. Jia? Why are you here? As soon as Jia Yanbing opened the door, he saw a hesitant man standing at the door, which surprised everyone. Even Jia Yanbing didn't expect that the first person to come was the village chief. Before dinner, the village chief was taken away by the chief of the Jin clan and never came again. He thought that the village chief would mobilize the villagers to stop the land reform. He really didn't expect that the village chief would be the first to come. The person who was even more shocked was Wan Lauer. Wan Lauer had been listening to who the first person was. When the village chief asked this question, Wan Lauer immediately ran to the gate like a fly. Village chief? Is it really you? You are? Wan Lauer pushed Jia Yanbing aside, shook the village chief's hand with a shocked face, and pulled him into the yard. The village chief quickly turned around and looked around. Seeing that there was no one else, he followed Wan Lauer into the yard. Mr. Jia, can you please close the door first? The village chief was pulled by Wan Lauer, and he did not forget to turn around and tell Jia Yanbing. Jia Yanbing understood the village chief's concerns, nodded, and locked the gate. Back in the upper room, Old Lady Wan also came out from the inner room. She was also very curious why the first person was the village chief, because Chui did not see men outside. She and Wan Erseo listened in the inner room. Through a curtain, they could hear clearly what was said outside. Aunt, it's so late. Why haven't you slept yet? I'm really sorry to bother you. The village chief saw Old Lady Wan coming out and smiled awkwardly. It's okay. I'm old and I don't sleep much. Village chief, sit down and talk. Jia Yanbing and Fu Bao followed in from the back, and they sat down. Wan Lauer was so surprised that he had a lot of questions to ask the village chief, but he didn't know where to start. But Jia Yanbing knew that time was tight. The village chief was obviously worried and didn't want to meet other villagers in the village. He was the first to come. There must be others coming later, so he had to hurry. Village chief, I guess you want to rent out your land? Jia Yanbing got straight to the point without any nonsense. Mr. Jia, it is true. I have carefully read the notice you issued. Is everything on it true? Of course it is true. We have already written the contract. And it is stamped with the official seal. Jia Yanbing took out the contract he had prepared in advance from his sleeve and handed it to the village chief. The village chief saw the official seal on the notarization at the bottom with a light in the room. The village chief was relieved and returned the contract to Jia Yanbing. Mr. Jia, to be honest, after I was taken away by our clan leader and brought to our ancestral hall, he gave me a lot of instructions and told me not to participate in the land leasing business. But after I went back, I thought about your notice carefully. The notice said that the land was rented to you, but we would take care of it ourselves. But you would pay wages, year-end bonuses, and dividends. I calculated it according to the wages you mentioned. Even if our family has 2 people working a year, if we do a good job, we can earn 5 taels of silver a year, and it doesn't delay us from working in the workshop, which is equivalent to earning double the silver. I know the land at the border best. We can't grow any high-yield crops. After paying taxes, we will have nothing left. And I heard that taxes will be increased this year. Isn't this forcing people to death? Instead of waiting for the sky to collect, it is better to rent it out and get a stable income. So I have discussed with my parents and I are willing to rent our land to you. The village chief said with a firm look. Village chief, your decision is correct. I believe that everyone will rush to give us land to plant next year. But the treatment will not be the same as it is now. Otherwise, wouldn't it be unfair to you? The first batch of people? Jia Yanbing words made the village chief secretly happy. Fortunately, he came. Then let's sign the contract. Jia Yanbing slapped the contract on the table. And Banksia immediately brought the 4 treasures of the study. Okay. The village chief told Jia Yanbing the location and amount of his family's land. After Jia Yanbing filled it out, he asked the village chief to look at the breach of contract clause. Village chief, these are breach of contract clauses, which are a constraint for us. The term of the land rent is 20 years. Before the expiration, if one of us breaches the contract, we will have to compensate the other party with 100 taels of silver. If you have no objection, just sign it. 100 taels of silver? So much? The village chief hesitated. Village chief, if the penalty is too little, what's the use of this contract? And you might go to jail, because it's stamped with an official seal. Wan Lauer was sweating, fearing that Jia Yanbing would scare away the village chief, who had finally come to visit. Chapter 676 Signing the Contract. The village chief hesitated for a while, looked at Wan Lauer and said, Jinju, I believe in your family. Your family is blessed. Since your family came to our village is getting better and better. It is the richest village within 100 miles. I think it is not a loss to follow your family. I am willing to sign. Wan Lauer was deeply moved. It seems that the days at the border in the past few years have not been without gain. Their family has an irreplaceable position in the hearts of the people in Shitsi village. Village chief, don't worry. I will definitely lead the whole village to live a better life, so that everyone will not worry about food and clothing, live in a good house, and will never be crushed by snow when it snows. At this time, an unspeakable pride flowed in the hearts of the two. The village chief pressed his handprint without hesitation, took away a contract, and kept the rest in Jia Yanbing's hands. After seeing off the village chief, not long after, several villagers from the Wan family came. Wan Lauer was dumbfounded. These were all people who had a good relationship with him. There were several brothers, Changsheng and Changfu, and several patrolmen, a total of 10 families. You all came to sign the contract? Wan Lauer was very surprised. He was really predicted by Mr. Jia. Jinju, your family offers such good conditions, and we have a stable income. Anyone who doesn't do it is a fool. We have calculated it ourselves. We work hard to farm the land for a year, but we can't eat enough, wear warm clothes, and have no money to spend. If we rent the land to your family, we can not only eat enough, wear warm clothes, but also save a few taels of silver in a year. Isn't this your family rushing to give us money? We also suspect that your family is doing it on purpose. Seeing that everyone in the village is not doing well, you want to secretly help them. Changsheng smiled and patted Wan Lauer's shoulder. The others also laughed. Wan Lauer knew that everyone came because they trusted him. Otherwise, who would be willing to hand over their land? Everyone, Stop standing in the yard. Come in and sit. After the first one, there will be the second one. On the surface, everyone said that whoever rented their land was a fool. But in the end, they all felt a little embarrassed when they met behind their backs. After working for most of the night, half of the people in the village actually signed. My God, I thought no one would sign. But half of them have signed in just one night. I'm afraid the remaining half are just waiting and watching? Wan Lauer looked at the thick stack of contracts, his face full of excitement. Sir, Dad, tomorrow we will add a line to the notice, saying that half of the people have signed the contract. And those who signed this year will be treated according to this year's treatment. After New Year's Eve, it will be treated as next year. And next year's treatment will definitely be lower than this year's. Fu Bao paced in the main room with his hands behind his back, with a cunning light in his eyes. Wan Lauer said with a bitter face, My daughter, isn't this a bad idea? We are all from the same village. If this year is different from next year, others will definitely disagree. Dad, can you buy pork at the same price before the new year and after the new year? Fu Bao stunned Wan Lauer. This is definitely different. There are more people buying before the new year, so it is naturally more expensive. There are fewer people buying after the new year, so it is naturally cheaper. But what does renting land have to do with buying pork? Dad, can renting the land to us now be the same as renting the land to us after the new year? To put it bluntly, they are just waiting to see how those who rented the land first are doing. If they are doing well, they will rent the land to us. If they are not doing well, they will laugh at those who rented the land to us first. The opportunity to make money never waits for anyone. This is also a fair treatment for the villagers who rented the land to us first. What do you think? Dad? Jia Yanbing nodded secretly. This girl is really more and more likable the more you look at her. Wan Lauer also figured it out. Dad understands. Okay. It's getting late. Let's all rest. Who knows what kind of noise the village will have tomorrow? Old lady Wan yawned and got up to go into the house. She didn't expect the people of Shitsi village to trust their family so much. Nothing happened overnight. And early the next morning, Jia Yanbing posted a new notice, covering the original notice. The villagers who came to the workshop to work saw the eye-catching line of big words on the new notice. And the workshop immediately exploded. Somehow, this matter reached the ears of Chief Jean, and he came to the workshop on crutches. The workshop is now the largest gathering place in Shitsi village, except for the elderly and children. Almost everyone in the village works in this workshop. The workshop has made the Wan family rich, and also supported the people of the whole village. Chief Jean angrily knocked on the hung notice with his crutches, focusing on the last sentence. You are really unreasonable. The lifeblood of our ancestors is gone. You just say you don't want it? Who are you so bold as to rent the land? You have the guts to do it secretly. But why don't you have the guts to admit it? Who is it? Stand out. I will punish you bastards for my ancestors. Chief Jin's hands were shaking, and his body could not help shivering. The people of the Jin family were afraid that he would get angry and do something bad, so they hurried forward to persuade him. Chief, don't be angry yet. Maybe Wan Jinju is deliberately making trouble, and there will definitely be no one renting land in our village. Chief Jin thought it made sense. What if? You can't tell a person's heart from his face. You are all shallow-skinned people. For a few dirty dollars, you sell out the hard work left by our ancestors. You are unworthy of being a son. The Jin clan leader's cane pounded on the ground. But the workshop was not their Jin clan's territory. Everyone was paid by the Wan clan, and had to work for the Wan clan. So many people quickly turned a blind eye, and went about their own business. The Jin clan leader was so angry that his chest was heaving, and his beard was about to stand up. You? Okay. You don't even listen to me now. Right? Okay. Let's wait and see. I want to see those of you who rented out the land privately. Don't come crying and beg me for mercy. Haven't you seen how the big landlords in the next village treat their head workers? What's the difference between the Wan family and the landlords? No matter what Chief Jean said, everyone was still busy with their own work, and no one spoke. Uncle, why are you here? The village chief came a little late this morning. Before he arrived, he heard the chief losing his temper in the workshop. He knew something was wrong and ran in quickly. Jinyo, tell me, have you rented out your land as well? No. That's impossible. Don't listen to nonsense. You told me yesterday and I remember it. You go back first and take good care of yourself. It's only a few months before the new year, and I celebrate your birthday next year. The village chief finally persuaded Chief Jean to leave. However, near noon, many people came to Sheetsy village. These were all nearby villagers. They all came to Sheetsy village to deliver potatoes, and knew the location of the one family. They knocked on the door of the one family directly. Chapter 677. People from other villages are here too. Excuse me. Is Master One at home? Who are you looking for? Hohat heard the noise, and ran out quickly. We are looking for Master One. Are you renting land? When Hohat heard that someone was here to rent land, she turned her head and shouted into the house. Sir! Uncle Heir! Someone is here to rent land. Wan Lauer and Jia Yanbing were talking in the house. And Fu Bao was reading a medical book. After she finished preparing for this matter, she would go to various villages to provide free medical treatment and fill her little notebook. Sir! Why did I hear Hohat say? You heard it right. This person came during the day, and it is estimated that he is from another village. Let's go out and take a look. Jia Yanbing reacted immediately. Wan Lauer followed Jia Yanbing and hurried out. Sir! Uncle! These people said they came to our house to rent land. Hohat! Go and do your work. Let everyone come in for a drink. Wan Lauer went forward to open the door, and indeed saw many unfamiliar faces standing outside. And some familiar faces. Fellow villagers, come in and talk. Wan Lauer shouted loudly. The people outside politely entered the door of the one family's yard. Many people were not visiting the one family for the first time, and they were not unfamiliar with the one family. Several maids quickly moved all the stools in the house into the yard, as well as long benches. It was the time when the workshop was getting off work. When the villagers saw people from other villages coming to their village and going to the one family, they knew it must be related to the land. So those villagers, who were still hesitant, immediately followed them. They wanted to see if someone really wanted to rent their land. You said someone in our village really rented land yesterday? I think it's true. Jean Ju never lies. We live in the same village. He has no need to lie to us about this matter. Otherwise, how can he hold his head up in the village in the future? If that's the case, who do you think might have rented out their own land? I think the families close to the one family must have signed. Everyone talked all the way to Wan Lauer's house. The gate of Wan Lauer's house was not closed at all. Jia Yanbing wanted to let the villagers in the village see that if they didn't hurry up and miss this year, they would not have this treatment next year. The villagers of Sheetsy village didn't go home after work, and surrounded the one family. There were a total of 40 or 50 villagers from other villages. Each of them sent a person who could be the master of the house. The yard of the one family was full of people at this time. Master One, we have all seen the notice you posted in our village. I am from the village next door. Some people in our village are interested and want me to ask you. Is everything on the notice true? A man with a dark red face and a loud voice. People outside can hear it clearly. Let Mr. Jia tell you about this. All your transactions from now on will be with Mr. Jia. I entrust him. The man immediately looked at Jia Yanbing next to Master One. Are you Mr. Jia? Can you tell us about the notice? All the terms on the notice will be written in the contract, and the contract will be stamped with an official seal. If I breach the contract, you can take the contract to the government to sue me and put me in jail. Jia Yanbing words gave everyone a reassurance. You should know that in general contracts, both parties only need to press a handprint, and this can be stamped with an official seal. What does it mean? It means that the matter has been approved by the government. At this time, not only the people from the outside villages in the yard, but also the people from Sheetsy village, who were gathered outside, were discussing it. If this is stamped with an official seal, then it means that it has been approved by the county magistrate, which means that the magistrate is also optimistic about this matter. I think we can go back and discuss it again. If the treatment next year is really not as good as this year, won't we lose a lot? Or we can ask Jean Ju. How is the treatment next year worse than this year? I think it's okay. The people from the outside villages were still asking Jia Yanbing some details when they heard the villagers from Sheetsy village waving at Wan Lauer at the door. Jean Ju. Jean Ju. Come out for a moment. The villagers from Sheetsy village came late and wanted to watch the excitement, so they didn't squeeze in and could only shout at the door on tiptoe. Wan Lauer was listening to Jia Yanbing explaining the terms in detail to the villagers from the outside villages when he heard people outside calling him. He stood up and squeezed out. Seeing this, Fu Bao also hurriedly squeezed out with his father. She felt that if someone asked Wan Lauer about the land rental, he would definitely not be able to answer, and she could help answer it from the side. What's wrong? What do you want me to do? Wan Lauer was sweating. The villagers of Shitsi village quickly pulled Wan Lauer out. The outside was wide, but there were many people. Wan Lauer was instantly submerged in the crowd. Jinju, we all want to ask you if there is any difference between the land rental this year and next year. Can you tell us in detail? As expected, Wan Lauer couldn't answer. He scratched his head and said with a smile, I don't know either. This plan was decided by Mr. Jia and Fubao. I'm not sure. Oh, you are the head of your family. How come you don't know anything? You don't know anything? Is Mr. Jia reliable? Why do you trust outsiders so much? Is Mr. Jia a relative of yours? Wan Lauer was surrounded by various questions and didn't know which one to answer for a while. Suddenly, a small hand grabbed his big hand. He looked down and saw that it was his daughter. Wan Lauer immediately picked up Fubao from the ground, as if he had seen a savior, and hurriedly said to everyone, Ask my daughter if you have any questions. Jinju, we are not saying anything to you, but your family is really strange. Why do you like a girl so much? Girls will get married in the future. You might as well call back Wan from your family and let him help you guard the family business. Your family business is getting bigger and bigger. Can you do without a boy? Wan Lauer's face suddenly darkened when he heard it. Are you still asking or not? I tell you, I can't control what your family is like. But our family values Fubao. In the future, all of our family belongs to Fubao. I will find a live-in son-in-law for Fubao. Isn't it okay? Wan Lauer was a little angry and turned around to leave. Fubao rubbed Wan Lauer's old face. Dad, don't be angry. The world's perspective is like this. It's not necessary. I'm not angry. Have you forgotten what we are here for? Wan Lauer said angrily. I haven't forgotten. We want everyone to live a good life. But what about them? Not only do they not appreciate it, they are also trying to sow discord here. Jinju, we didn't mean that. Don't be angry. We said the wrong thing. Sister-in-law apologizes to you. I think Fubao is blessed. And your family will definitely be rich and powerful in the future. Everyone saw that Wan Lauer was really angry, knowing that this touched Wan Lauer's reverse scale, and quickly said soft words. Wan Lauer was not a stingy person. Besides, they were all from the same village. He couldn't keep a sullen face when the other party said such a thing. Okay. Ask whatever you want to ask. My daughter hasn't eaten yet. Fubao looked at the people of Shitsi village with a smile. Dear uncles and aunts, I heard all the questions you asked my father just now. I will answer you now. Everyone has seen the treatment this year, which is what is on the notice. The treatment next year will definitely be lower than this year. The rent for renting land next year will be 3 cents cheaper per mu than this year. In addition, you can't participate in the year-end bonus evaluation at the end of the year, and there will be no gifts for festivals. Ah, there is such a big difference. Then you can calculate that there is 1 or 2 taels of silver. Right? More than that. The notice said that when this election is made, the first place can get a pig. And a pig is worth several taels of silver. No. I have to go back and discuss it with my husband. The people at the door of the Wan family dispersed at once. Chapter 678 The Proud Old Man. After sending away the villagers of Shitsi village, Wan Lauer felt much more comfortable. Fuba, if they say anything bad about you again in the future, you should fight back and say that daddy is okay. But you are not okay. Wan Lauer felt that his daughter was too kind and would be bullied in the future. So he quickly instilled in her, Daddy, I will not be bullied. And you can't be bullied either. Wan Lauer smiled and touched Fubao's little head, and carried Fubao back to the yard. In just a short while, half of the people from other villages had signed contracts. Daughter, how much do you think we can sign this year? Except for the land in the hands of the landlords, which we can't take back for the time being. We can take back 70% of the rest. So much? How much land would that be? Wan Lauer couldn't figure it out. There are a total of 150,000 acres of land in our town, and 70% is 100,000 acres. Fubao figured it out as soon as he opened his mouth. Wan Lauer exclaimed, Oh my god! 100,000 acres? Wouldn't our family become a big landlord? When I was a child, my family was poor and didn't have a few acres of land. I thought that if I had money in the future, I would buy more land. But I didn't expect. Wan Lauer was full of emotion. Daddy, this border will belong to our family in the future, and you will be in charge of this land. Okay. Fubao smiled and hugged Wan Lauer's neck and coaxed. Then I will benefit from my daughter in the future. when Wan Lauer was holding Fubao and walking back. Some villagers had already started to return. It is estimated that everyone will talk about renting land on the Kong tonight. Not only the Wan family can't sleep, but the people of the entire Jinwu town are probably unable to sleep. The landlord next to Shitsi village was smoking welding smoke at home at this time. And in front of him was the notice posted by Jia Yanbing. Master, what do you think the Wan family is going to do? What do they mean? They took all the land from the people. Are they going to go against us landlords? The woman stood aside with a gloomy face. Humph. A grasshopper after autumn. Can't jump for long. What can an outsider, who made a fortune from mud legs, do? They don't know how high the sky is, and how deep the earth is with just a few cents in their hands. Wait. If they don't sell everything they have to pay back the money next year. I will call them Grandpa. Master, we should be more cautious. We should be better to the long-term workers below. And it's best to win over some short-term workers to prepare for a rainy day. This is my opinion. You just wait and see. When everyone can't get the money, they will definitely demolish their house. The woman sighed and said nothing. The Wan family had returned to peace at this time, and the sun had set. Mr. Jia, how are you today? Wan Lauer asked excitedly, rubbing his hands. Today, a total of 137 companies signed contracts, with a total of more than 1,500 acres of land. Tomorrow, we will send people to check the general situation of these lands, and see which ones are connected so that we can start digging wells. What? Digging wells? Mr. Jia, you didn't mention this before? There is very little water at our border. Wan Lauer was shocked. Dad, don't worry. I find a place. Fubao pulled Wan Lauer's hand. Wan Lauer looked down at Fubao. This, girl, I know you are good. But for this matter of finding a well, let's ask professionals to come? Of course we should ask professionals to come. They are only responsible for digging wells. And Fubao will find the water source. Wan Lauer looked at Jia Yanbing. And then at Fubao. Did the two of them discuss it? Fubao blinked his big eyes and signaled Wan Lauer. Wan Lauer understood. He thought that the well in his yard would be full every day. No matter how much he used the day before, it would be full the next day. It seems that this is also related to his daughter. Right? Okay. Then I leave it to you. Fubao ability seems to be getting stronger and stronger now. She can feel a wisp of spiritual energy flowing into her body every day. But she doesn't know why there is such a change. Now she sees more and more colors. And she has figured out the corresponding energy of each color, so as to judge the good or bad of things. Wan Lauer shook his hand and didn't care about anything. Now everyone who came directly went to Jia Yanbing, and he concentrated on studying the new seeds. When October was approaching, an old man suddenly came to the Wan family. The old man was wearing gray clothes, had silver hair, and his beard was braided into a small braid. He had a rag wrapped around his waist as a belt. He also had a pipe on his waist, from the yellow color on his hands. It can be seen that this old man is definitely an old smoker. The old man looked in good spirits, with fair skin and rosy cheeks. He didn't look like an old man. He stood at the door of Wan Lauer's house and looked up. A trace of regret flashed in his eyes. And then he sighed. Oh, Grandpa? Who are you looking for? Hoha just came out to the field to call Wan Lauer's family to eat, and saw the old man standing at the door. The old man looked at Hoha. Girl, is this the Wan family? Is there a Jia here? Grandpa, are you looking for my second uncle and Mr. Jia? Hoha was used to it. Many people came to see Wan Lauer and Jia Yanbing every day. Now the land was rented much faster than expected. Well, is Jia Kid here? Let him come out to pick me up. The old man stood at the door with his hands behind his back, looking arrogant, as if he would not go in unless Jia Yanbing came out to pick him up. Grandpa, please wait a moment. I will go and invite the gentleman. Humph. You are a rich young master. But you are a gentleman. You are really crazy. The old man was not polite at all. Hohat secretly stuck out her tongue. Is this old man very angry? Could it be that Mr. Jia offended someone and he came to the door? But Hohat did not dare to delay and immediately turned around and ran back. Sir, someone is looking for you outside. It's an old man. Jia Yanbing was looking at the newly acquired map, which was a map of all the land distribution in Jinwu town. The red parts on it were all the land that had signed contracts, which was more than half. The rest were either old stubborn people or landlords and gentry. So far, no landlord was willing to rent out his own land. Jia Yanbing stood up immediately after hearing this. Ho-hot. Is it really an old man? Yes, sir. He also specifically asked you to pick him up. Otherwise he would not come in. Before Ho-hot finished speaking, Jia Yanbing had already strode out. Fu Bao keenly realized that this person must be extraordinary. But the sir didn't seem to have told her about it. Fu Bao followed Jia Yanbing happily and ran out with his short legs. Before reaching the gate, he heard an old man cursing. You stinky boy. You tricked me into this godforsaken place. Are you here to make me starve? Open your eyes and look. Is there anyone here? You can't even hit a fart with a stick. How can you make money without people? Fu Bao tilted his head and watched the old man drooling, poking Jia Yanbing's chest with his pipe, with a look of disappointment on his face. Old man, stop it. Don't touch my husband. Fu Bao shouted and ran towards the old man. Luckily, Jia Yanbing was quick-witted and grabbed Fu Bao's collar. Fu Bao kicked his two short legs like a little turtle. Chapter 679 The Guilty Old Mansion. Sir, please let go. I won't bully him anymore. Fu Bao pouted and screamed. Jia Yanbing then slowly put Fu Bao on the ground. Fu Bao, this is the nobleman I invited. How can you be so rude? Besides, you don't respect your elders. So I punish you to copy the Analects. Ah? Sir, I know I was wrong. Can you not punish me to copy the Analects? Fu Bao shook Jia Yanbing's arm and acted like a spoiled child. No. Give it to me in half a month. Fu Bao stamped his feet angrily. Humph. Sir, if you really want to punish me, I will. What will you do? Jia Yanbing's face was stern, and it was obvious that he was determined to change Fu Bao's impulsive temper. If this temper was not changed, it would be easy to suffer a great loss in the future. I will copy the medical book. Fu Bao turned his face away angrily, but heard an inappropriate laugh. Pfft. This girl is so funny. She looks like a doll in a New Year painting. How old are you? The old man put away his pipe, looked curious, and even his tone became friendly and kind. Jia Yanbing had a helpless expression. He didn't know whether it was right or wrong to invite the old man. He felt that if the two grandfathers and grandsons met, there would be a lot of trouble. This was a strong premonition. Fu Bao didn't want to answer, but because he had just been punished by Jia Yanbing, he didn't dare to be too presumptuous, and whispered, I don't know. I'm going back to copy medical books. Fu Bao turned and ran away. Jia Yanbing quickly apologized for Fu Bao. Mr. Chen, you've worked hard all the way. Come in and take a rest first. Mr. Chen immediately changed his face. You are so old. She is just a little girl. Why do you care about her? She didn't do anything to me. You punished her to copy the Analects. I didn't see your master punish you to copy the Analects at the beginning. You don't know how to care for the young. Jia Yanbing dared not to be angry, and said respectfully, Mr. Chen is right. Mainly because I didn't make the master angry at the beginning. The master? Okay. You start showing off again. If it weren't for you showing off, your family would have such a big change. Okay. I'm thirsty. Mr. Chen put his hands behind his back and walked into the Wan family yard leisurely. Oh, what's that smell? It smells so good. I'm old and have been on the road for months. And finally I came to this place where no one lives. I don't have much meat on my face. As Old Mansion spoke, his neck was as long as a snail. He wished he had 2 tentacles on his head so that he could see what delicious food was being cooked in the kitchen. Jia Yanbing knew Old Mansion too well. His words hinted that he had suffered a lot to come to the border. If he was not compensated, he would quit. Jia Yanbing smiled bitterly and hurried to catch up. Old Chen, lunch is ready. Please come in. Humph. For the sake of food, I'd let you go today. As soon as Old Mansion looked up, he saw a few people standing under the eaves of the upper house. Old Lady Wan, Chui, and a few children were looking at him curiously. Chui must know Old Mansion, but Old Lady Wan was not familiar with him. Mr. Jia, who is this? Old Lady Wan had long seen the behavior of Old Mansion, and was somewhat puzzled as to why Mr. Jia was so respectful to this slovenly old man. And, let me introduce him to you. This person is half of my mentor. His surname is Chen, and he is good at growing and managing medicinal herbs. When I returned to Jiang'an, he was not at home, so I left a letter. I didn't expect him to come so soon, but the season is just right now. Humph. I didn't choose the time to come, and I came to eat and drink for free. Right? I tell you, I have no children. And you will take care of me in my old age. If you let me come to this place where no one lives, I will probably not be able to go back, and will have to sleep here forever. Old Man Chen spoke about such a heavy topic in a very indifferent tone. And Jia Yanbing knew that this was his true words. Old Chen, don't worry. Even if I don't come to the border, I will still take care of you in your old age. You are a man with a conscience. Okay, let's start with a lunch. Old Chen nodded to Old Lady Wan. Old Lady Wan only knew about Old Chen's general identity, and that he could grow medicinal herbs. As for whether he was good at growing them, why Jia Yanbing valued him so much, and why he had no children, she didn't want to find out. After all, everyone has their own life. However, since the person Jia Yanbing valued so much must be a useful person, Old Lady Wan quickly greeted Old Chen politely, invited him in, and shouted in the direction of the kitchen, Old Second Wife, there are distinguished guests at home. Add a few more dishes. Call Old Second back quickly. Ho hot. Go and bring up the good wine at home. Oh, okay. And what about the wine? Old Chen originally had a rosacea, and his nose and cheeks were always red because he loved drinking. Old man, you haven't paid me for the ride yet. Suddenly, a young man chased after him. Old Man Chen slapped his forehead and said, Oh, how could I forget about this guy? Xiao Bing, I hired a horse carriage. Please give him some money. This young man is good. I can come here alive thanks to the good care he gave me. Don't be stingy. Give him more. I go in first. After saying this, Old Man Chen immediately walked into the house. His back looked a bit like he was running away. Jia Yanbing looked at the young man, and saw that he was not very old. He looked like a southerner with fair skin and short stature. Brother, thank you for your hard work. How much did you agree on for the fare? I pay you the money right now. The young man was relieved. As long as he could get the money back, it would be fine. He had been nervous all the way, afraid that the old man would cheat him. If it weren't for the fact that the old man paid 100 taels of silver, he would not have made this trip. The fare is 300 taels in total. The old man has already paid 100 taels. You can give me 200 taels. Jia Yanbing nodded. Okay. Wait a moment. I give you the banknote. Brother, don't worry. This is just the fare. Is there any other money? Jia Yanbing asked in surprise. If the young man dared to blackmail people, he wouldn't mind sending him to the government. Yes, he only had 100 taels of silver on him, and he gave it all to me. I paid for his food and lodging on the road. The old man also stayed in the best guest room, had meat for every meal, and half a jar of wine every day. The wine had to be good, not too bad. He spent all the 100 taels of silver he gave me, and I even put in 50 taels. If he hadn't kept telling me that his son was rich, I really wanted to throw him out on the road. The young man's voice was loud, and the people in the yard and the house could hear it. Old Lady One secretly glanced at Old Man Chen. Old Man Chen twisted and turned as if he was on a stool with pins and needles, and his face turned red involuntarily. In his heart, he scolded the young man who drove the cart. Do I have no face? Why are you so loud? Are you afraid that others can't hear it? Chapter 680 Earning Fubao. Jia Yanbing knew without asking that this was definitely true. Although Mr. Chen earned a lot, he seemed to have used all his money for charity, and donated it to the poor people. If drinking was his first hobby, then charity was his second hobby. Otherwise, he would not have agreed to his plan to reform the border. Don't look at him saying that it was a barren place. But in fact, he might have agreed with his idea as soon as he stepped into the border. Jia Yanbing finally paid the young man 400 taels of silver. Little brother, let's have lunch before leaving. Wan Erseo also heard about the incident. She was the host, and Jia Yanbing would probably feel embarrassed if she didn't ask to stay. Sister-in-law, no need. I have to hurry home. In another month, the road will be blocked by heavy snow, and I can't go back. I have to rush into the border before the heavy snow comes. The young man declined Wan Erseo's kindness and drove the carriage away. Little brother, wait. If you don't want to eat at our house, forget it. I get you some food. You can eat slowly on the way. I can't let you go on an empty stomach. Wan Erseo rushed into the kitchen, made a few buns, picked up some cakes, wrapped some vegetables with oil paper, ran out in a hurry, and stuffed them into the young man's mouth. Little brother, you have worked hard. Wan Lauer came back after sending the driver away. The test site this time was in a land where they dug gold. The water source there has been very sufficient in the past 2 years, and it is convenient to use water. After Hohot called Wan Lauer back, Banksia immediately brought warm water for Wan Lauer to wash his face. Dad, there is a distinguished guest at home. You should accompany him well. It seems that he was invited by the master. It seems that it should be related to the land rental this time. He is a master. Wan Urseo pulled Wan Lauer aside and whispered a few words. Is it related to renting land? Could it be an old hand who knows how to farm? But that's unlikely. How could the master know such a person? I don't know much either. You know when you go in, the food is ready. I serve it to the table. After hearing what Wan Urseo said, Wan Lauer hurried back to the house to change his clothes. At this time, the room was divided into 2 tables, one inside and one outside. Banksia, Baiji and Hohot were busy serving the dishes, and the 3 of them ate in the kitchen. Since the family had more people, Banksia and Baiji insisted on not eating at the same table with Fubao and the others. In the end, Wan Urseo had no choice but to leave food for them in the kitchen. And Hohot also wanted to eat with Banksia and Baiji. Now Mrs. Wan was eating on the Kong in the inner room with Chui and several children. But they could hear the people talking outside. After Wan Urseo came in after cleaning up, she saw Fubao also ran outside to eat at the same table with Wan Lauer. Girl, let me introduce you to you. This is Chen Dishan. Mr. Chen is half my teacher. He is best at growing medicinal herbs. So when I went back to Jiangnan to pick up my wife and children this time, I went to find him and asked him to come to the border. Jia Yanbing said a few words and aroused Fubao interest. Grandpa, can you grow medicinal herbs? Really? Fubao changed his appearance half an hour ago, climbed down from his small stool, and moved to sit next to Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen was so happy. He just heard that this girl knew medical skills, so she must be quite familiar with medicinal herbs. Maybe they will have to deal with each other frequently in the future. Of course, I have been growing medicinal herbs all my life, and this medicinal herb is my wife. Fubao's eyes were immediately full of stars, and he looked at Mr. Chen with admiration. Then can you tell me what medicinal herbs we can grow at the border? I have been walking along the way, stopping and starting, and I have studied the soil at the border. The climate requirements for growing medicinal herbs are also very high. I found that the sunshine time at the border is longer, and many medicinal herbs are very suitable for planting here, such as astragalus. Astragalus can be planted twice a year at the border, from late March to mid-April, and from late September to early October. These 2 time periods are the best time to plant astragalus. Now it is just October, which is just right for planting astragalus. But the seeds of this medicinal herb need to be purchased. I don't know if it is easy to buy at this border. After Chen Lao told Fubao about astragalus, he was also half worried and half happy. Old Chen, don't worry. Just plant it, and leave the rest to me. Let's plant a little this year, and plant another batch next year. Moreover, it takes 2 to 3 years for the growth of astragalus to mature. So we need to plant it in batches, so that we can harvest it every year. Old Chen did not respond to Jia Yanbing words, and continued to say to Fubao, Girl, do you want to know how to plant medicinal herbs? I want to. So much. Grandpa, are you willing to teach me? By the way, my name is Fubao. Grandpa can call me Fubao from now on. Fubao immediately used her special moves on Old Chen. Old Chen liked Fubao to begin with, and now he responded with even more doting. Of course I am willing. Your name is Fubao? You are indeed a blessed person. Fubao immediately took advantage of the situation, and picked up a big chicken leg from the plate in front of him for Old Chen. Grandpa, come, eat the chicken leg. This will be your home from now on. Don't be shy. Tell Fubao what you want to eat and drink. It will be enough. This sentence directly touched Old Chen's heart. He raised his head and laughed, and then gave Jia Yanbing a good look. You kid, this trip is not in vain. This girl will be my granddaughter in the future. Old Lady One had been listening inside, and immediately quit after hearing this. Hey, old man, you want to snatch my granddaughter when you come to our house for the first time? Just now, I was polite to you for the sake of my husband, and you still want to snatch her? This is my granddaughter. This is our home. Old Lady One usually says everything well and is reasonable, but as long as Fubao is involved, she will not give in at all. Wan Lauer and Jia Yanbing saw that Old Lady One came out in person, and hurried to mediate. Mom, don't be angry. Isn't Old Chen also joking? Aunt, Old Chen does like to joke. You don't have to take it seriously. But old man Chen has a stubborn temper and said with his neck stiff, "Humph. I want to recognize this girl as my granddaughter." "What's wrong?" "No." Seeing that old lady Wan was about to get angry again, Fu Bao quickly pulled old lady Wan into the inner room. "Grandma, don't worry. You are the one who did it. This old Chen is our key figure this time. Many medicinal herbs are in short supply in Daki now. Brother Imo wrote to me saying that many soldiers on the front line are still holding on despite being injured. The treasury is empty, and there is not enough supply of medicinal herbs. If we can grow a large number of medicinal herbs, we will have absolute say in the future. If he wants to take me back in the future, the emperor will have to think twice. But these large quantities of medicinal herbs must be grown by old Chen." "Grandma, you are a generous person. Don't argue with an old man." Although Jia Yanbing did not tell Fu Bao the purpose of growing medicinal herbs, Fu Bao was able to adapt to the situation. Only then did Mrs. Wan's expression ease. "Okay, I'm doing this for your sake, but it's inconvenient for me to let the old man live in our house." Chui immediately added, "Aunt, don't worry. Old Chen lives in our house. There are still many empty houses in our yard. I will go back and clean up a room for old Chen in a while." The farce came and went quickly. After eating and drinking, Jia Yanbing took old Chen back to their yard and returned to discuss the land for planting medicinal herbs with Wan Lauer. Chapter 681 Jia Yanbing goes out. Jia Yanbing spreads the map of Jingwu town on the stone table in the yard, and Wan Lauer and Fu Bao both come around. "Second brother, look, most of these lands have been connected, and the wells that Fu Bao dug in the places he found are now producing water. I have to go out tomorrow, so leave these things at home to Fu Bao. I asked my wife to assist Fu Bao, and it should be no problem. And I think Banksia and Baiji are also good girls." Wan Lauer looked at the red part on the map, which represented their current land, and the other part was the green origin marked, which represented the wells. Wan Lauer roughly counted them, and found that there were already 20 to 30 wells. "This is a big project. Mr. Jia, are you going out tomorrow to buy medicinal seeds?" "Yes. Mr. Chen has given me the list. I plan to go out tomorrow to contact my friends at the border. They are all in the medicinal business. Maybe we will continue to do business with them in the future. This time, I go to buy medicinal herbs and pave the way for our medicinal herbs in the future." Wan Lauer didn't understand these things and didn't express his opinion. "Mr. Jia, I don't know much about business, but how much money do you need? Tell me. Although our family doesn't have much money, it should be enough to deal with these." "Second brother, this is what I want to tell you. Medicinal seeds are not like grain seeds. They are more expensive. In addition to this arrangement, you have to prepare 5,000 taels of silver for me. I don't know if you have that much. 5,000 taels? That's indeed not a lot, but it should be enough to collect. I give it to you tomorrow." Wan Lauer went into the house after he finished speaking. Fu Bao ran over quickly. "Dad, have you used all the money you have to rent land? It shouldn't be enough." "Right. You can use the banknotes that Big Brother gave us first, and we can make up for it when we make money. Don't think of other things. The money in Wan Lauer's hand is indeed not enough, and he also has to find a way to make up. Will this work?" "Wan Lauer doesn't want to use the money," Fu Bao said firmly. "Dad, it's okay. I know you don't want to use the money, but money can only make money if it is used. If it is left alone, it will be dead. Don't feel bad, Dad." Wan Lauer's heart was loosened a lot by Fu Bao's words. "Okay. Then Dad will use 1,000 taels first. I still have 4,000 taels of banknotes in my hand, and another 1,000 taels should be enough." "Well, Dad, don't worry. In 2 years, these 5,000 taels of silver will definitely increase tenfold." 10 times? So much? Wan Lauer's eyes were straight. "Dad, those are medicinal herbs, not food. Besides, the front line of Dachi is in urgent need of medicinal herbs. Our medicinal herbs will be sold at a good price. And I think Mr. Chen will not only grow one kind of medicinal herb, but with so many medicinal herbs, can only Mr. Chen manage them?" Wan Lauer was worried that if he could not harvest the seeds after planting, he would suffer a great loss. "Don't worry, Daddy. The master has already made arrangements. The village heads have been promoted to managers by the master, and they are paid 1 or 2 taels of silver per month. The master has also started to select farmers who are suitable for growing medicinal herbs. Their wages are twice as high as those of the uncles and aunts who tend the crops. At that time, Medicinal herbs will be their lifeblood. If they want to live well, they will definitely do their best to tend the herbs. If there is any mistake in the management of medicinal herbs in this village, the master will ask them to compensate according to the price. Wan Lauer was surprised. How do you know everything? Why don't I know? Didn't you just know that your master wants to grow medicinal herbs? Fu Bao raised his little head proudly and said with a smile, because I'm smart. Wan Lauer's eyes flashed with a doting smile. Just as he was about to praise, he heard Fu Bao say, I'm kidding you. I've asked the master, and he told me the detailed plan. No wonder the Jia family can become the top of the 4 great families in Jiangnan. Mr. Jia always looks ahead one step at a time. We really wronged him in our family. Fu Bao smiled mysteriously and said, Then, Dad, guess whether Mr. Jia has any plans? Wan Lauer was stunned at first, then swallowed nervously and said, Plan? Plan for what? Is it for our family's prescription? And money? Fu Bao curled his lips. Dad, do you think that with Mr. Jia's ability, this money can make him tempted? He has seen mountains of gold and silver, and this little bit is not even a hair on his body. Okay, I'm just kidding. But if Mr. Jia needs our help in the future, Dad must not refuse. Of course, Dad has seen Mr. Jia's help to our family. How could I refuse? What do you think your father is? Although I am a peasant, I am a peasant with a conscience. Wan Lauer's words made Fu Bao chuckle. Okay, Daddy, you should take the money to the master quickly. Just keep what we said today in your heart, and don't let the master know. What did we say today? I forgot. Wan Lauer pretended to be stupid. Dad, your acting skills have improved. Fu Bao ran away with a smile. Wan Lauer changed his previous look and frowned slightly. He was an adult. Although he was honest, he was not stupid. He also took the words his daughter said to him to heart. He didn't believe that Jia Yanbing would help unconditionally. As for what conditions he would put forward in the future, Wan Lauer should have an idea in his mind. It was nothing more than revenge. But their one family didn't have the ability. But now that things have come to this, let's talk about the future later. Even if Jia Yanbing can't touch him and can't take revenge now, the emperor will not let him go. After all, how can others sleep peacefully beside the bed? Not to mention that this person is the king of Li. Wan Lauer was not very worried. Wan Lauer gathered the silver and gave it to Jia Yanbing. Mr. Jia, here is a total of 5,000 taels of silver. When will you be back this time? Wan Lauer was worried that Jia Yanbing would be gone for too long. If something happened at home, they would not be able to handle it. Don't worry, brother. I will definitely be back within 10 days. Otherwise we will miss the sowing season. Wan Lauer was relieved. After Jia Yanbing left, Old Man Chen was not idle either. He asked Banksia to drive the carriage to take him and Fu Bao around all day. Old Man Chen held a map given to him by Jia Yanbing. Grandpa Chen, are you looking for a place suitable for growing medicinal herbs? Yes. Let's go to the village over there and take a look. Banksia drove the carriage to a village in a valley. The village was surrounded by layers of land, like layers of stairs. The map showed that all the land in this village had been rented to the one family. Nowadays, no one is seen working in the fields. In the past, there would be people turning the soil and preparing fertilizer. Now, people sit in groups of 3 or 4 at the door to bask in the sun and gossip. Life is so comfortable. Old Man Chen stopped the carriage at the entrance of the village. When the villagers saw Fu Bao, they all came up to greet him. Chapter 682 Old Man Chen holds a meeting for everyone. Old Man Chen saw Fu Bao surrounded by people, all talking about the news. So he quickly stepped forward to rescue Fu Bao from the crowd. Okay. What does a little kid know? Go away. It's useless for you to ask. The contract has been signed. The land has been rented. And what to plant in the future has nothing to do with you. You just like to worry. Old Man Chen pulled Fu Bao out of the crowd and walked towards the field. The villagers behind followed one after another. Anyway, everyone had nothing to do. The boss was here, and they didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. Even if the land was rented out, it was theirs, and they would definitely care about what to plant on their land. Uncle, Miss Wan doesn't know. But you know, right? Can you tell us what to plant on this land? We have lived in the border all our lives, and we know what can be planted on this land and how much it can produce. But Mr. Jia is paying us such a high rent, and we are worried that he will lose money. Old Chen laughed when he heard this, and he was much more amiable than when he first came. Then you go home and pray for Mr. Jia, Don't let him lose money. Old Chin would not reveal a word. After all, many people are watching the actions of Jinwu Town now. If the news leaks out, it may be difficult to sign the land later. Uncle, you are joking. Old Chin was not going to deal with this group of people anymore. But he couldn't get rid of them. So he took Fu Bao to the edge of the field. In the eyes of the villagers, he was just an old hand who knew how to farm. And his image was really no different from those old men in the village. Old Man Chin was talking to Fu Bao in a low voice while looking at the land. Even the villagers watching from the side could not understand what they were saying. It was completely beyond everyone's cognition. When it was getting dark, Old Man Chin took Fu Bao away. They walked for 6 or 7 days, leaving at sunrise and returning at sunset every day. Fu Bao's little notebook was already full of notes. Old Man Chin's knowledge of planting medicinal herbs helped her to further familiarize herself with the medicinal properties of various medicinal herbs. Counting the days, Jia Yanbing will be back soon. After entering October, the weather at the border is getting colder day by day. If the seeds are not sown, the land will probably become frozen soil. That day, Old Man Chin did not take Fu Bao out again, but found Wan Lauer. Jinju, have someone notify the manager Xiaoping has found to come to your house. We need to prepare our land first. I have picked out the plots of land. There are more than a dozen villages with good land. Moreover, the land of these villages is close to each other, which is convenient for management. I have marked the names of the villages on the map. Wan Lauer quickly took the map and saw at a glance that the places marked by Old Man Chin on the map were all small circles drawn with black charcoal pencils. They were indeed connected. And these villages were the villages with the highest contract signing rate. Okay. Old Chin. Wait. I will ask someone to call them over. Wan Lauer hurried to the workshop, found more than a dozen men, and went to these villages to call people over. At almost noon, the people came back. Mr. Chin, everyone has been called here. Just tell us what you want us to do. We will listen to you. Wan Lauer invited everyone to the West Wing, because there were frequent guests at home during this period. Wan Lauer asked Wan Air's wife to bring a few maids to clean up the West Wing and use it as a place to receive guests. Village leaders, we called you here today because we have to work. Mr. Chin took out his pipe, took a few puffs, and then said slowly, Really? Uncle Chin, are we finally going to start construction? The villagers in our village have been urging me, asking why it has taken so long to start construction. They want to buy a piece of meat to taste during the new year. The villagers in our village are also urging me. They want to run 800 times a day and trample the threshold of my house flat. Wan Lauer hurriedly smiled and said, Village heads, don't worry, because we signed the agreement in order, and the land rental situation is different. We are in a unified management, so it is only half a month late. I hope you can understand. Master Wan, don't worry. We are all persuading, and everyone is also anxious. This day's work pays a day's wages, and no one wants to be idle. When Jia Yanbing signed the contract, he wrote that he would pay a day's wages for a day's work, and the rent for the land and the year-end bonus would be calculated separately. Now that the rent has been received, everyone is not short of money, but the villagers are used to digging in the fields, and they are still a little uncomfortable with being idle all of a sudden. Don't worry. I guarantee that if you rent out your land, the income you get in the future will definitely not be less than that from growing potatoes. Although we are growing potatoes now, the yield is high and the income is high, but it will only last for 1 or 2 years. If we grow more in the future, the price will not go up, and everyone will lose money. You can understand this, which means you are all smart people. Wan Lauer was also worried about this problem at first, fearing that people would be unwilling to rent out their land because potatoes brought considerable income to the people of Jinwu Town last year. Master Wan, Mr. Jia has made it clear on the notice. We are not stupid. Besides, who doesn't have a few relatives from other places? It has spread all over our village that the neighboring county will also start to grow potatoes in large quantities next year. This thing has a high yield. If you don't handle it, it will become poisonous. We are not stupid. If we get caught, the whole family will starve to death. Master Wan nodded. That's right. And we are the only family that collects potatoes at the border. Once we don't collect them, all the potatoes in everyone's hands will be wasted. Okay. You are right to rent out the land. This is the matter. You all remember what I am going to say next, and go back to pass it on. I remember that Xiaobing has selected a group of people from your villages. Starting tomorrow, Let these people in your village come to Sheetsy village to learn how to grow. After listening to everyone talking for a long time without getting to the point, Old Chin immediately brought the topic back to let everyone know what they are here for today. The village heads laughed immediately after hearing this. Mr. Chin, we are all experienced in growing crops. Do we still need to learn this kind of planting? You just need to explain it to everyone. We can go back and tell our respective villages. We can start turning the soil tomorrow. A man smiled and looked at everyone, and the others echoed him. Mr. Chin waved his hand. If it is to grow crops, I am definitely not as good as you. But what we are growing this time is not ordinary things. You don't need to say too much. And don't ask too much. Just do what I say. If you ask too much, I won't be able to tell you. And if I say too much, you won't understand. Let all the people shall being selected before come tomorrow. The village heads were a little confused. Could it be that this land is not for growing crops? Chapter 683 Successful Sowing. Because Old Man Chin said that we were not allowed to ask. Everyone was very tactful and did not ask any more questions. However, the next day, early in the morning, hundreds of people came. The Wan family yard could not accommodate so many people. Wan Lauer was going to let everyone go to the drying yard in the village. But Old Man Chin refused directly. Don't bother. They are all here to learn how to farm today. Just take them to the fields. Now most of the land in Sheetsy village is in the hands of the Wan family. Only the Jin clan leader and his family have been holding back and have not signed the contract. But they have also been a little shaken recently. So many people came from other villages at once. And the old men, old ladies, and children in Sheetsy village, who did not go to work, all went to the fields to watch the fun. Old Man Chin led so many people to the fields in a mighty manner. This is a rare spectacle in Sheetsy village for 100 years. You are the best selected from many villagers. I believe your Mr. Jia has also told you that your wages are 30 won a day. If you do well in the later stage, you may get 50, 80 or 100 won a day. It depends on your own understanding and effort. That's all I have to say today. What I will say next is the key point. Old Man Chin stood in the middle. His words were like thunder in the sky, shocking everyone to almost fall to the ground. Oh my God! 100 won a day? That would be 3 taels of silver a month. 30 taels a year? Am I dreaming? If it's really 100 won a day, I would rather work for the Wan family for the rest of my life. That's right. That's right. Even the villagers from Sheetsy village, who came to watch the excitement, were stunned. Jinju, what are you going to plant in your field? It's so precious? Can it grow gold or something? Can you offer such a high price? Why don't we have it in our village? We are all from the same village, so we can't be left out if there is a good thing. An old man immediately stopped Wan Lauer and asked, Uncle, we have it in our village too. It requires some talent and hard work. Not everyone can do it. Maybe everyone can do it later. But it takes time. We must lead some people in the early stage. The old man heard what Wan Lauer said and felt relieved that he had not forgotten the people in his village. We all know that your family is a great benefactor and will definitely not forget the villagers. Wan Lauer smiled and said, What great benefactor? Our family can be what it is today thanks to everyone's help. Old Man Chin over there has already started to teach everyone how to turn the soil and prepare the land. Because astragalus is a deep-rooted plant, it is advisable to choose sandy loam with a deep soil layer, fertile, loose, and well-drained. These days, Old Man Chin took Fubao to check everywhere, just to select the soil that can grow astragalus. The more than 100 acres of land in Wan's family also meets the requirements. Today, Old Man Chin is teaching everyone on the land of Wan's family. I have already selected the land in each of your villages. You will line up to go to Wan's family to see the land location marked on the map later. And then, you can go home to prepare the land. Now I will tell you the requirements for preparing the land. You must plow the land as deep as I do, with a depth of 1 foot to 1.5 feet. Everyone come and see now. Remember this depth. Not too shallow or too deep. You are all old hands in farming. I think everyone can understand these when I say them. After reading it, the circle of people inside remembered what Old Man Chin said, and then made way for the people behind to come in. Everyone was holding their breath in their hearts, wanting to perform well and strive to increase their wages to 100 coins a day as soon as possible. So they were very enthusiastic in learning. Uncle Chin, we all remember it. Please continue. Old Man Chin nodded and continued to talk about the next precaution. It was not until noon that everyone had no problem, and they went home in groups. In the afternoon, Jia Yanbing came back. He not only brought back seeds, but also a convoy. The car was full of farmyard manure. To plant astragalus, base fertilizer must be applied. But there is not much farmyard manure at the border. Before he went to buy medicinal seeds this time, he had written to Lao Yangtu. Lao Yangtu's family has been raising sheep for generations, and he knows many sheep farmers. It is more appropriate to ask him to help buy farmyard manure. So when he went to buy seeds this time, Lao Yangtu had already led the convoy halfway, and the two met by chance. Jia Yanbing paid the money, and Lao Yangtu saved trouble and returned directly the same way. Mr. Jia, what are you pulling in this car? One Lauer curiously lifted the straw covering it and took a look. Inside was dried sheep manure, which did not smell that strong. So much sheep manure? One Lauer was surprised. Brother One Air, these are the sheep manure I bought from Lao Yangtu. When planting medicinal herbs, you must apply base fertilizer. These are far from enough, but other fleets will deliver them in the next few days. It should be enough for this year. Jia Yanbing said it easily. But in fact, if they didn't find Lao Yangtu, they would have a hard time getting these fertilizers. A lot of farmyard manure has been bought by big landlords, so they must start early next year. After solving the problem of farmyard manure and the problem of medicinal seeds, the next step is to quickly sow the seeds. Mr. Chen, I bought several different kinds of medicinal seeds this time. These are the medicinal herbs you mentioned that are suitable for the environment here, and they are all suitable for sowing at this time. In addition to astragalus, I also bought Cotinopsis, rhubarb, and angelica. Well, you did a good job, but you have to prepare the seeds for sowing next spring. I know these seeds should be difficult to find. It is not impossible for us to keep the seeds ourselves, but these medicinal herbs will only mature in 2 or 3 years. If you keep the seeds at that time, I am afraid that your losses will be great. Mr. Chen, I understand. Before I came back, I had already paid a deposit and asked the other party to keep an eye on it for me. Okay, you just need to know it yourself. In mid-October, all the medicinal seeds were planted. But this was just the beginning. There would be thinning and cuttings later. Different medicinal herbs had different planting methods. These were all things that Old Man Chen had to worry about, and no one else could help. As the one family started to move, those who had been waiting and watching finally couldn't sit still anymore, because Jia Yanbing asked one Lauer to personally distribute the first month's wages. And he used baskets filled with copper coins, which not only visually but also psychologically defeated those villagers who were still holding on. They could only stay at home in winter, but those who rented out their land still had work to do. And if they had work, they had income, which made those people envious. After the first payment, the territory of the one family expanded a lot. Now there are less than 100 villages in the entire Jinwu town that have not signed contracts. And there are also some landlords and gentry. These are no longer important to Jia Yanbing. He believes that in 3 years, these landlords will definitely beg him to rent the land to them, and the price will not be the same as it is now. Chapter 684 Mother's Sudden Arrival. It was November in a blink of an eye, and the people at the border began to stay at home because the first heavy snow had arrived. The one family had a large population, and it was very lively every day. Banksia and Baiji knew Kung Fu, and now they became Fubao teachers. And Fubao was also taught a few tricks. One Lauer and Jia Yanbing stayed in One Lauer's laboratory all day long. There were new crops planted by One Lauer here. There were new grains allocated by the court. But the quantity was small, and no one had planted them before. So Shinjin Yuan gave them all to One Lauer. Now 70% of the land in the entire Jinwu town is in the hands of the one family. The one family has this condition. Although Shinjin Yuan also has selfish motives and wants to take care of his in-laws. This in-law has the power to do nothing. They have so much land to plant. Even if the higher-ups come to investigate, he has an excuse. Old Man Chen now likes to chat with the village chief's father and has learned to visit. Basically, he is not at home all day. Sister Banksia, come and see. It's snowing so hard. Shall we go sledding? Fubao likes to play the most, and especially likes snowy days, because his clothes won't get wet, and they won't get sticky, and there will be mud everywhere. The white snow covered all the dirt on the ground. Miss, there's nothing at home to make a sled. Banksia also wanted to take Fubao out to play, but she looked around the house and didn't find anything useful. Fubao stood in the yard and looked around, and found that the only material available at home was the bamboo used to surround the chicken coop. The bamboo could be split in half to make the two legs of the sled. Sister Banksia, shall we dismantle the chicken coop? Banksia immediately waved her hand. No. No. The lady knows that you will definitely be scolded. Shall we think of another way? Sister Banksia, it's okay. I'm very tough. Mother can beat me as much as she wants. I'm not afraid of the pain. Fubao pulled Banksia's hand and acted coquettishly. Banksia was struggling for a long time and couldn't make up her mind. She looked up and looked into the house. She heard Mrs. Wan's second wife, and Chui's family chatting in the house. They didn't pay any attention to the yard. Miss, let's think of other ways. I can't bear to be beaten if you do. As the two were arguing, there was a knock at the door. Excuse me. Is this the Wan family? Fubao and Banksia both pricked up their ears to listen. This accent doesn't sound like our border. Fubao ran over immediately with curiosity and lay down to look out through the crack of the door. There was a carriage outside and a beautiful woman standing at the door. Fubao quickly stood on tiptoe to reach the bolt. Miss, I'm here. You take a rest. Banksia quickly carried Fubao to the side, and she stretched out her hand to open the bolt. The door was opened, and the situation outside was in full view. Fubao's little head squeezed out from Banksia's waist, revealing two big eyes looking at the people outside curiously. Who are you looking for? Banksia asked after taking a look at the people outside. The woman saluted quickly. Excuse me. Is this the Wan family? Banksia nodded. Yes. This is the Wan family. Who are you? The woman was overjoyed and immediately turned around and ran back to the carriage. Madam, I found it. The Wan family is here. Fubao squeezed out from behind the door and looked at the simple carriage outside, with a strong curiosity in his eyes. A snow-white and delicate hand stretched out from the carriage, and then a peerless face appeared behind the curtain. Banksia almost cried out when she saw this face. Oh my god! Isn't this a replica of the young lady? Banksia heard Wan say that the young lady's biological mother was the imperial concubine of Estate, and if she came to find Fubao, she should send a pigeon to tell him immediately. The moment Fubao saw this woman, his heart suddenly tightened, and a strange feeling instantly swept over his body. Tong Yin saw Fubao standing at the door at a glance. Her weak body was so excited that she fainted when she saw Fubao's face, and she almost fell off the carriage. Fortunately, the maid was quick to help her. Otherwise she would have fallen off the carriage. Madam, what happened to you? Banksia knew that something was wrong. This must be the young lady's biological mother. It was obvious that they were mother and daughter. She didn't care about the guests at the door, and immediately turned around and ran in. Fubao walked down the steps in a daze. Sister, I know medical skills. Can I see her? The maid was so anxious that she burst into tears. She quickly stepped aside when she heard the words. Princess, this is your mother. Please help madam. The maid was so flustered and at a loss that she forgot to doubt whether what Fubao said was true. A child actually knew medical skills? Fubao took Tong Yan's pulse with the maid's hand. Fubao's eyes kept staring at Tong Yan's face. This face was so beautiful. She had never seen anyone so beautiful. There should be no such beautiful woman in the whole Dachi. Right? Fubao subconsciously touched his face and murmured, my face seems to be a bit like hers. However, Fubao was soon frightened by Tong Yan's pulse. Where are you from? Fubao asked in a deep voice. Princess, we are from Yu State. This is your biological mother. Madam came to Dachi with her last breath to find you. The maid was so anxious that she almost knelt down. Fubao felt as if her heart was being tightly grasped by someone. Could this be the connection between mother and daughter? Her condition is very bad. She needs to be acupunctured immediately to protect her heart pulse. Otherwise it will be too late. After hearing this, the maid knelt on the ground with a plop. The ground was covered with calf-deep white snow. The maid knelt down, and her whole leg sank into the snow. Princess, please, you must save madam. She hasn't said a word to you yet. Sister, I'm not a princess. My name is Fubao. There is no princess here. Everyone is the same. There are no slaves. You must be careful when you speak. Don't bring trouble to my family. Fubao spoke very quickly, and was obviously anxious. The maid nodded quickly and changed her address. Miss, please save the lady. Her body is almost exhausted. Even if you let her talk to you, it will be worth the lady's hard work to find her daughter. Sister, please get up quickly. If you keep talking, I can't save her. At this time, everyone in the Wan family had received the news, and even Mrs. Wan was helped out by Wan Urseo. The gate was immediately surrounded by people. Sister Banksia, save her quickly. Take her back immediately. I want to give her acupuncture. Banksia looked at Wan Urseo worriedly, and seeing that she was still a little confused, she bit the bullet and agreed, and quickly took Tong Yin back to the Kong in the upper room. Fu Bao stepped on her calves and wanted to catch up quickly, but when she passed by Wan Urseo, she felt Wan Urseo's nervousness. So she raised her head and stretched out her hand to Wan Urseo and said, "Mother, I walk slowly. I need you to hold me." Wan Urseo quickly bent down and picked up Fu Bao. My goodness, that person is... Although Wan Urseo had prepared herself mentally, when this day suddenly came, she felt as if her heart was pierced by countless needles, and she felt both painful and helpless. Chapter 685: The Return of the Jade Card. Fu Bao saw that Wan Urseo's face was full of anxiety, and her body was trembling as she hugged her. Fu Bao quickly hugged Wan Urseo's neck tightly. "Mother, no matter who she is, you are my mother. Forever." Fu Bao's words seemed to soothe Wan Urseo's anxious heart, and her tense body slowly relaxed. Holding Fu Bao and walking upstairs. "Fu Bao, Mother heard what the girl said just now. You must save her. She is also a poor person." Fu Bao showed a mouthful of white teeth to Wan Urseo. Fu Bao knew that his mother was worried, but the kindness in her heart made her still care about the person who might threaten her position. Banksia had already put the person on the Kong. Tong Yan's body was not very good to begin with, and she faked her death again. After escaping from the palace, she was arranged by Tong Rui to come to Dachi, and she was on medication all the way. Seeing the person she missed so much, she was so excited that the string in her heart broke, and she fell down. "Miss, please come and see the lady. I can't feel her breathing." The maid Ali was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. When she saw Fu Bao coming in, she hurried forward and held Fu Bao's hand. "Girl, don't worry. Fu Bao will definitely try his best to save your lady." Wan Urseo saw Li's anxious face and couldn't help comforting her. Wan Urseo put Fu Bao on the Kong. Baiji had taken Fu Bao's silver needle and put it aside. Ho Hot lit the oil lamp. Wan Lauer and Jia Yanbing didn't come in because of the difference between men and women. They sat in the main room and listened to the noise coming from inside. There were too many people in the room, so Mrs. Wan sent a few out, and the light in the room suddenly became much brighter. "Mother, Sister Banksia, come and help me untie her clothes to expose her chest." "Oh, okay." Wan Urseo immediately took off her shoes and got on the Kong. Before Banksia got on the bed, Ali said, "Sister, let me do it." Ali moved quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, he was already on the bed and kneeling beside Tong Yin. Ali's movements were very gentle, and Wan Urseo was a little at a loss. She only helped to unbutton the clothes, and Ali took care of the rest by himself. "Miss, okay. Do you think this is okay?" Fu Bao nodded, looked up and asked Ali, "Sister, what's your name?" "Miss, I'm Ali, the lady's personal maid." "Sister Banksia, take Sister Ali to have a cup of hot tea to warm her body. I don't think she looks very well." Banksia looked at Ali with a gentle expression and said softly, "Sister Ali, let's go out and have a cup of hot tea first. If you are here, our young lady can't concentrate on seeing your lady." Ali's eyes were very worried, and she refused to go out. She knelt on the Kong and begged Fu Bao, "Miss, please let me stay. I promise not to say a word." "Okay." Although Ali had a strong U accent and the words of Dachi were a bit awkward, everyone understood. "Sister Ali, I'm doing this for your own good. If you get sick, no one will take care of your wife." Ali was obviously a little entangled by what Fu Bao said, but Fu Bao didn't persuade her anymore. He lowered his head and inserted more than a dozen needles into Tong Yan's chest. "Mother, please heat up the Kong a little more. They don't seem to be able to adapt to our climate." Fu Bao looked at the face on the Kong that looked 80% similar to hers and said softly, "Okay, I go right away. Madam, you just need to rest." "I go," Baiji hurriedly replied outside. And then there was a sound of footsteps. Fu Bao called Ho Hot again. "Sister Ho Hot, go and make a bowl of ginger soup for the patient." "Okay." A quarter of an hour later, Fu Bao took out the silver needle. Ali's eyes were wide open. She clenched her fists nervously and looked at Tong Yan's closed eyes. "Sister Ali, Don't be so nervous. She will wake up soon. She is too tired and needs to rest. I just gave her acupuncture and temporarily stabilized her heart pulse. But she still needs to take medicine. I will go to get a prescription now. When Ollie heard Fu Bao say that her master had stabilized, the strength in her body suddenly disappeared, and she sat on the con like a puddle of mud. After Fu Bao came over with the prescription, she called Banksia. Sister Banksia, it's still early today. Take the prescription to the shop in the town to get the medicine. Follow this prescription to get the medicine for half a month. Banksia came in from outside, took the prescription handed over by Fu Bao, folded it carefully, and put it inside her clothes. Ollie seemed to react suddenly, and immediately took Fu Bao's little hand. Miss, wait a minute. This is what the second lady asked me to give you. It's your aunt. Ollie took out a jade token from her body. This jade token was the one that Fu Bao gave to Wan Quan at the beginning. But now it is back in Fu Bao's hands. Fu Bao was forced to hold the jade token and looked at Ollie strangely. Sister Ollie, is this jade token important? Fu Bao was only 1 year old at the time, and she didn't know the importance of the jade token. Nor did she know the value of the jade token. Now that Ollie gave her the jade token again, she had to ask clearly. Miss, this is a token of our Tong family. Half of the Tong family's property is under the name of the lady. The lady said that all of it is left to you. Which means that, miss, you now own half of the Tong family's property. Fu Bao didn't know what the Tong family was, let alone how much property the Tong family had. So she tilted her head and asked, Sister Ollie, is the Tong family very powerful? Is it as powerful as my husband? Fu Bao question stumped Ollie. She didn't know Fu Bao's husband, and couldn't answer this question. But she could answer the first question. Miss, the Tong family is the richest in Yu State, and their wealth can buy the entire Yu State. But I can't say more about the rest. When the lady wakes up, she will tell you in person. After saying that, Ollie looked at the sleeping beauty lying on the Kong again. She didn't know if she was dazzled, but she felt that her master seemed to be in a much better mood than before. At least she was more lively. Sister Ollie, I will accept this jade token first. Fu Bao hung the jade token around his neck again. Miss, all the shops with the pattern on the jade token on the plaque are our shops, and you can use them at will. Fu Bao quickly lowered his head to take a look at the jade token, and asked Banksia to see it clearly. Sister Banksia, take a look at the pattern on this jade token, and check if there is a shop of ours in the town later. Fu Bao quickly adapted to his extra wealth. Banksia smiled and replied, Miss, don't worry. I will definitely check all the shops in the town. Banksia turned and walked out. She could still ride a horse on the road. Banksia wore an open top. Only half of her face was exposed, and rode away. Ho-Hot brought a bowl of warm ginger soup for Ollie to drink first. Tong Yin was still sleeping, with no sign of waking up. But her face gradually became rosy. The Kong was heated by Baiji, and Fu Bao was sweating all over. Outside, Wan Lauer was talking to Jia Yanbing about Fu Bao's life experience. Now there was no need to hide it from Jia Yanbing. After all, his mother had come to the door, and they couldn't hide it. What made Wan Lauer even more worried was that he was afraid that Fu Bao's mother would attract the pursuit of the Yu people. Chapter 686 Tong Yin wakes up. There is only a curtain between the outside and the inside room, and the words said inside can basically be heard outside. Wan Air brother, this master and servant sound like people from you. Why did they come to your house? Wan Lauer sighed, and told Jia Yanbing how he picked up Fu Bao, and Fu Bao's true identity, and told Jia Yanbing everything. So, Fu Bao's true identity is the princess of Yu, and she is also the granddaughter of the Tong family? Wan Lauer nodded. Yes. Some doubts in Jia Yanbing's heart were finally solved this time. I was wondering why Fu Bao has an innate nobleness, and her intelligence is far higher than her peers. It turns out that she is the granddaughter of the Tong family. Wan Lauer knew a little about the Tong family. He only knew that their family seemed to be very rich. And he also heard some news about the Tong family from the little maid just now. Mr. Jia, have you heard of the Tong family? Of course. The Tong family is indeed wealthy. And Mr. Tong has made many friends, and has a very high status among the people of Yu. The Yu royal family dare not touch the Tong family at all. This is also what our Jia family has always wanted to learn. But we were framed before we learned it well. So, the Tong family is richer than your Jia family? Wan Air brother, our family dare not compare with the Tong family. How much wealth the Tong family has. I guess only the Tong family knows. But I heard rumors that the Tong family's wealth can buy 2 kingdoms. 2 kingdoms? God. Isn't that a gold mountain? A gold mountain? As far as I know. The Tong family bought several mountains in Yu Kingdom, 2 of which are gold mines. And 1 is an iron mine. Do you think the Tong family has money? Wan Lauer was shocked when he heard this. The Tong family's ancestral tomb must be well buried. Otherwise how could such good luck fall on their head? Wan Lauer asked innocently. Jia Yanbing sneered. Wan Er, you are so naive. How can there be such good luck in this world? The Tong family must have asked someone to survey and got the news of the gold mine first, and then spent a lot of money to buy it. Otherwise, no matter how much money someone has, why would they buy a barren mountain? Wan Lauer was so surprised that he couldn't speak. It really deserved that they were rich. Then, just now they said that half of the Tong family's property belongs to Fubao. So Fubao is. Wan Lauer really couldn't imagine that his daughter had taken off on the spot. The little dowry he saved for his daughter was not even a penny of others. Wan Er, Fubao has been well fed and well clothed since she was born. Some people are born rich. You should be happy for her. Jia Yanbing said, and patted Wan Lauer on the shoulder. Wan Lauer smiled bitterly and nodded. She's awake. Madam is awake. Ali's surprised voice came from inside. Miss, come and see Madam. She's calling you. Ali hurriedly looked for Fubao. The room was too hot, and Fubao just ran out to cool down. She turned back when she heard Ali's call. Ali, we found Furui. Right? Tong Yan's long and dense eyelashes covered half of her eyes. She tried to raise her hand to pull Ali, but it fell down as soon as she raised it a little. Madam, we found the young lady. It was the young lady who saved you. Ali cried excitedly and held Tong Yan's hand tightly. Where is my daughter? I want to see her. Wan Erseo sat aside and watched such a beautiful person end up like this. She felt very uncomfortable. She was also a mother. Fubao was not born by her after 10 months of pregnancy. But she couldn't bear to see Fubao suffer any grievances, let alone Fubao's biological mother. Fubao was already standing at the door of the room at this time. She hesitated. Wan Erseo knew that Fubao was afraid that she would be sad. But when she saw Tong Yan's sick face, she gradually let it go. Wan Erseo smiled and waved to Fubao. Girl, come here. Fubao came trotting over and was carried to the Kong by Wan Erseo. But Fubao was acting out of character, completely different from usual. He hugged Wan Erseo's neck with great affection. He didn't look like a little adult, but a child. She looked at Tong Yan lying on the Kong with a timid and curious look. Tong Yan finally saw her daughter whom she had been thinking about day and night. She didn't need to ask. Just based on their looks, she could tell that this was her daughter who had been missing for several years. Fu. Rui. I'm your mother. Wu. Tong Yan looked at Fubao looking at her, as if he was a stranger. And she felt indescribable pain in her heart. But Fubao went to Wan Erseo's arms again, as if he was resisting. Wan Erseo felt Fubao's little move, and quickly stroked Fubao back gently. My daughter? Be good. This is your mother. Can you go, and let her see it? Wan Erseo comforted Fubao softly. Fubao refused to let go, but hugged him tighter. No. You are my real mother. Don't you want Fubao? Fubao looked at Wan Erseo aggrievedly. Wan Erseo's heart trembled at what Fubao said, and she quickly hugged Fubao tightly. How is it possible? How could mother not want you? Mother would not want you even if she didn't want me. Old Mrs. Wan watched from the side, and seeing that this was not a solution, she quickly stepped forward to persuade, Miss Tong. Fubao is not familiar with you yet. Don't look at her as a little kid every day. After all, she is still a child. Give her some time to adapt. You just woke up and need more rest. You should rest assured to recuperate in our house, and get along with Fubao slowly. After she gets to know you, she will definitely recognize you. Tong Yan's eyes were tearful, and she looked pitiful. She was beautiful to begin with. When she cried, even the women in the room were heartbroken. Oh! Girl! Don't cry. Don't cry. You are not in good health. You can't be sad anymore. Old Lady Wan quickly persuaded, and looked at Fubao again. My dear, even if you don't recognize her for the time being, she is still a patient. You are a doctor. Don't you want to keep the patient in a good mood? Old Lady Wan knew that this matter could not be forced, but she could find another way. Fubao was obsessed with medical skills and took patients very seriously. As expected, Old Lady Wan's words touched Fu Bao's heartstrings. She slowly came out of Wan Erseo's arms, and slowly moved to Tong Yan's side. Don't cry. I just gave you acupuncture. If you are always sad, it will not be conducive to your physical recovery. I was just a little scared just now. I know that you are sick because of missing her. Can you give me some time? Fu Bao lowered his head and whispered. Tong Yan saw that Fu Bao was willing to talk to her, and she was so happy that she forgot everything and nodded with tears in her eyes. I won't force you. As long as you are willing to talk to me. Can I touch your face? Tong Yan knew that this request would scare the child. But she saw the little person so cute and beautiful so close. She really couldn't help it. You can touch it. It's okay. Fu Bao gently grabbed Tong Yan's hand and put it on his little face. Tong Yan's fingers couldn't help but tremble slightly. She finally touched the little person she had been thinking about day and night. Tong Yan's tears were no longer controlled, like a flood that broke through the dam. Rushing out. Chapter 687 Wan Chuan's wedding date has been set. Tong Yan greedily felt the softness under her hands. This warm touch was so real that it finally overlapped with her countless dreams. Suddenly, she felt a chubby little hand gently placed on her face, wiping away her crystal tears. Fu Rui. Mother really found you. It's not a dream. You know? Night after night. Mother heard your soft little voice calling Mother to save you. But Mother was useless. Not only could she not find you, she couldn't even leave the palace. Mother could only blame herself every day and pray every day, hoping that you would be safe and happy. Tong Yan's voice was soft and gentle, with a strong reluctance and memories, which made several people present secretly shed tears, especially Wan Erseo. She was born as a mother, and she had been with Fu Bao for so many years, so she could better understand Tong Yan's mood at this time, so she could empathize with him. Fu Bao, she is your mother. Hug your mother. Right? She didn't lose you on purpose. She was helpless too. Now she finally found you. You will have two mothers who love you and care for you. You will be happier. Wan Erseo finally opened her heart completely at this moment. She looked at the weak beauty lying on the Kong. She felt indescribably uncomfortable. How strong willpower does it take to hold on until now? She just didn't see Fu Bao for half a year. She lost her appetite. But she could hold on for so many years. All the way from Yu to Chi. Wan Erseo felt that she could not do it. Fu Bao turned her head to look at Wan Erseo, and saw Wan Erseo smiling and nodding at her with tears in her eyes. Her eyes full of encouragement. Fu Bao was a little at a loss. She couldn't say it out loud when she suddenly called a stranger mother, but she could hug her because she was so pitiful. Fu Bao leaned down and lay on Tong Yan's body. Tong Yan's body suddenly stiffened. She was stunned for a moment, and then the surprise that was about to drown her came to her. Fu Rui, you. Tong Yan hugged Fu Bao's little body tightly with both hands, and was so excited that she couldn't speak. Although I can't call you mother yet. You came to me from so far away, which means you really love me. I am willing to try to get along with you. Can you give me some time? Fu Bao's voice was very low, but it sounded so sweet in Tong Yan's ears. Okay. Okay, I'm not in a hurry. You don't have to force it. Mother understands your feelings. You have done better than Mother. Tong Yan had a smile on her lips at this time, and the whole person seemed like a plum blossom that just bloomed in winter. Sacred and noble. My name is Fu Bao. From now on, just call me Fu Bao like everyone else. No matter what name I was called before. I don't think I like it. You probably don't like it either. Right? Fu Bao climbed up from Tong Yan and said with his big eyes blinking. Tong Yan hummed softly. Okay. Fu Bao is a good name. It means good luck. Then Tong Yan looked at Ollie. Ollie, help me up. You need to rest well now. It's best not to move around. Otherwise it's not good for your health. Fu Bao didn't know what Tong Yan was going to do, but seeing that she was about to get up, as a doctor, she immediately reminded her. It's okay. I know my body well. I won't die if I move. Now that I've found you, I will cherish my life even more. Tong Yan smiled at Fu Bao, and the room was instantly bright. So beautiful. Bai Ji stood aside and looked at Tong Yan like a fangirl. Ollie stepped forward to help Tong Yan up, and Fu Bao quickly supported her arm from one side. Tong Yan slowly turned around and faced Wan Erseo. Sister-in-law, you are Fu Bao's savior and the benefactor of our Tong family. From now on, we are all one family. Please allow me to bow to you on behalf of myself and the Tong family. Tong Yan said. and knelt directly on the Kong, and bowed to Wan Erseo Ying. Wan Erseo was frightened and quickly moved away. Oh! You must not. Get up quickly. You are the imperial concubine. How can you kneel down to me? I can't afford it. Don't bother me. Wan Erseo waved her hands, and hurriedly stepped forward to pull her up. But Tong Yen was determined to bow. Even though she was weak, she stuck to the Khan tightly. Sister-in-law, listen to me. Tong Yen sat up straight, looked at Wan Erseo, and reached out to pull Wan Erseo's arm. Wan Erseo saw that she stopped bowing, and she was relieved and helped Tong Yen sit down against the quilt. Let's talk slowly. There's still a lot of time. Don't rush. Tong Yen took Wan Erseo's hand and sat down. Sister-in-law, I must make it clear. Otherwise it will easily bring trouble to your family. When Wan Erseo heard these two words, she sat up straight. Then you talk slowly. Drink some ginger soup first to warm your body. Ho-Hot quickly handed over the ginger soup that had just been served. Ollie took it and fed Tong Yen mouthful by mouthful. After drinking the ginger soup, Tong Yen's forehead began to sweat slightly. Sister-in-law, there will be no more concubine Yen in the world. She is dead. Everyone in you knows that I will only have two identities in the future. The daughter of the Tong family, and the mother of Fubao. Although Fubao has not recognized me yet, I believe that she will recognize me in the future. Wan Erseo nodded. Yes, concubine Yen is dead. We all remember that you are Fubao mother. Tong Yen smiled and nodded. Although she had concealed her fake death, there was a powerful imperial master in Yu State. She was afraid that she would not be able to cover it up. If the coffin was opened, everything would be exposed. Tong Yan's heart knot was relieved a lot, and she felt sleepy. After Tong Yan fell asleep, Banksia came back on horseback. Miss, the medicine has been brought back, and I have discovered a great joy. Banksia was mysterious, attracting everyone's attention. What great joy is this? Girl? Tell me quickly. Banksia took out a letter from her bosom and handed it to old lady Wan. Madam, this is a letter from the general. I happened to meet the postman delivering the letter in the town. He was asking about our residence. I heard him and took the letter back directly. Grandma Wan took the letter quickly and said while opening it, even if it is a letter from Quaner, what does it have to do with the big happy event? Madam, when we came back, the general said that if his wedding date was set, he would write to the family. Have you forgotten? Does this letter mean that his wedding date is set? Banksia has always remembered this matter. Grandma Wan slapped her thigh and laughed. Really? You are still a good memory girl. Come on. Fubao. Read it quickly, and see what is written in it. Grandma can't read a single word, so it's useless to read it. Grandma Wan handed the letter to Fubao, who had been stretching his neck and tiptoeing to read it, and just took it from Grandma Wan. Fubao couldn't wait to unfold the letter, and read the letter word by word. Oh! Quaner has really set a wedding date. Next September. So should we rush over there in May next year? Where should we welcome the bride? And the etiquette of 3 matchmakers and 6 betrothals must be followed. Our family is marrying the daughter of a third-rank official, so we can't let others laugh at us. We need to find someone who knows the business to ask. And it can't be as simple as in our countryside. Old Lady Wan was so excited that she had simply thought about some of the problems she would encounter. Everyone immediately joined in the discussion. Grandma, don't worry. There are still several months to go, and we have ready-made people here. One inside and one outside. Can't we ask them? Fubao pulled Old Lady Wan's hand, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. After Fubao reminder, she immediately remembered that the people living in her house now were not ordinary people. It would be ridiculous to leave the people at home unused and go outside to find people. Chapter 688. Your sister is here to see you. Grandma Wan immediately set her sights on Tong Yen and Cui Shi. Both of them had experienced it once. Grandma Wan didn't know how the customs in Yu State were different from those in Dachi, but she felt that they wouldn't be too different in general. With Cui Shi there to discuss it, it wouldn't be embarrassing. Hey, your elder brother is getting married, and everyone from our side will definitely go there. But your brother is missing. I don't know how Winter is doing now. Grandma Wan was always worried about Wan. After all, he had been studying outside for several years, and she didn't know how he was doing now. Grandma, you don't have to worry about your brother. He has Mr. He to take care of him, so there will be no problem. Fubao saw that Grandma Wan was a little absent-minded, so he quickly comforted her. Second sister Wan was also a little worried. After all, her own son had been away for several years, So how could she not miss him? Oh, you're all here today. Old Man Chen came in from outside with his hands behind his back. He saw that old lady Wan was full of sorrow. So he smiled and asked, "Old sister, what's wrong? You are not in a good mood." Old Man Chen had just returned from the village chief's house. He had recently become fascinated with bamboo weaving, and was studying very hard with the village chief's father. He would not come back until dinner every day. "Nothing. I just missed my third grandson. He had been in Lushan Academy for several years. I don't know how he is doing now. I can't help but feel a little worried," old lady Wan said lightly, and sat down in the hall. "Lushan Academy? When I came, I seemed to see a group of students from their academy going to Beijing. They said they were going to study. What is their dean's surname? He led them personally. There were more than a dozen students," Old Man Chen said slowly. Old lady Wan, second sister-in-law Wan, and second brother Wan all looked at Old Man Chen immediately. "Old Chen, are you telling the truth? They went to the capital?" "Yes. We stayed in the same inn. Their academy is very famous. And they wore the clothes of the academy when they went out. People could tell at a glance that they were from Lushan Academy. I saw that the owner of the inn was very respectful. I even sneered at them at that time, thinking that they were showing off." Old Chen had a mocking look on his face. Mrs. Wan ignored the mocking look of Old Man Chen and immediately asked, "Have you seen Wan from our family?" "Wan, I don't know what your grandson looks like. And I wouldn't know if he is the same even if I saw him. But there is a young man next to Mr. He, who is about the same height as my nephew, with delicate features. I heard the old man call him Maowen. And he looks very similar to the one when you mentioned." Wan Lao Er stood up happily after hearing this, patting his thigh and said, "That man is my son. I remember that when Mr. He was teaching at our house. He seemed to have changed the names of each of them. Wan seems to be Maowen." After Wan Lao Er said this, Wan Er's wife seemed to remember it. But after a few years, Wan Er's wife didn't remember it very clearly. Now she remembered it, after hearing Old Man Chen mention it. It seems that Winter also followed Mr. He to the capital. The expenses of going to the capital are not small. I don't know if the little money he had before leaving is enough. I don't know where they are now. It's too late to send him money. Wan Lauer sighed heavily. At that time, he gave all the money in the family to Wan Wen. He was away for 2 or 3 years. And he was very worried. "I don't think you need to worry about money. I think the old man loves your son very much. He doesn't have to pay for food, accommodation and transportation. And there is no place to spend money." Old Man Chen told the Wan family everything he remembered. But this made the Wan family even more excited. "Grandma, my eldest brother is going to get married next year. My brother may hear this news in the capital. What if he comes back?" Fu Bao said with his little face raised. Old lady Wan pulled Fu Bao into her arms and hugged him. "I hope so," Old lady Wan murmured. Tong Yin has been in the Wan family for half a month, and her complexion has obviously improved a lot. She can walk without panting, and her relationship with Fu Bao has changed from strangers to good friends. Tong Yin is different from Wan Erseo. The book she has read and the knowledge she has gained are not on the same level as Wan Erseo. Before marrying into the palace, Tong Yin also went to many places. There are no males in the Tong family. Master Tong raised both daughters as men. So before entering the palace, Tong Yin also went out in disguise and checked the family business with Master Tong. Tong Yan's education method is somewhat similar to Jia Yanbing. In addition, Tong Yan is Fu Bao's biological mother, so she must want to give Fu Bao more things. In addition, she wants to make up for the shortcomings of these years. So she is using her charm to attract Fu Bao. Fu Bao is a curious baby, and she soon plays with her biological mother. Wan Erseo was a little sad at first, but later she saw that Fu Bao was genuinely happy, and many of Fu Bao's bad habits seemed to be corrected invisibly. Only then did Wan Erseo understand Tong Yan's painstaking efforts. So Wan Erseo now sincerely hopes that Fu Bao can spend more time with her mother. She was born a phoenix, but she was kidnapped by the bad guys and left outside. It was pitiful enough. Their one family could not give Fu Bao a noble life, but they could not stop Fu Bao from living a noble life in the future. Wan Erseo felt that it was time for her to let go. This was also a special kind of love for her. If she loved her, she would give her the best. Fu Bao didn't know what Wan Erseo was thinking, but she was thoughtful, and would not neglect Wan Erseo when she was close to her mother. The New Year's Day was coming in a blink of an eye. Tong Yan's body had completely recovered under Fu Bao conditioning. On the 28th day of the 12th lunar month, The Wan family was steaming rice cakes, and all the women were busy in the kitchen. Even Shui and Tong Yin rolled up their sleeves to try. They had never experienced the joy of farmers celebrating New Year's Eve. Old Lady Wan taught Shui. Second Sister Wan taught Tong Yin. Hohat taught Banksia and Baiji. And Fu Bao was busy running back and forth between the people. The kitchen was filled with the women's cheerful laughter. At this time, a team of carriages came to the door of the Wan family. "Excuse me. Is this the Wan family?" "Grandma. It seems someone is coming." I go open the door. Hohat hurriedly put down the flower in her hand, picked up a towel and wiped it randomly, and ran out. The door opened, and Hohat saw a woman standing outside. "Excuse me. Who are you looking for?" Hohat asked crisply. Her face was still stained with flour. Her sleeves were still rolled up, revealing a section of white and tender arms. The woman only took a glance, then lowered her head and asked respectfully, "Excuse me. Is this the Wan family?" "Yes. This is the Wan family. Who are you looking for?" Hohat asked curiously. At this time, a woman got off the carriage behind the woman. The woman was wearing a bright red convertible. Hohat looked out and saw the woman, and was surprised. How come she looked so similar to Aunt Yin? "Little sister. I am Tong Yin's sister. My sister is at your house." "Right?" Hohat smiled sweetly when she heard this. "It turns out to be Aunt Yin's sister. Please come in. I go call someone." Hohat immediately turned around and ran to the kitchen. "Aunt Yin, your sister is here to see you. Come and see." Tong Yin was putting a handful of red beans into the pot, and when she heard Hohat shout, her hand shook, and all the beans fell to the ground. Chapter 689, The Domineering Ant. Tong Yin ran out quickly, and saw someone standing at the gate. "Arui? Why are you here?" Tong Yin was so surprised that she couldn't stop smiling. "Sister, you?" Tong Rui looked at the charming figure running towards her, and couldn't hide her surprise, until Tong Yin came to her and grabbed her hands with both hands. Her warm hands made her cold hands feel a little warm. She really felt the change in Tong Yin. "Sister, are you really well?" Tong Rui's eyes widened in disbelief. "Arui, I'm all right. Look, it was Fu Bao who cured me. By the way, you haven't seen Fu Bao yet, right? Come on. Come in. I take you to see Fu Bao." Tong Yin held Tong Rui's hand with one hand, lifted the hem of her skirt with the other hand, stepped over the threshold and entered the yard. Everyone in the kitchen had already come to the yard. "Fu Bao, come quickly. Look who's here. This is your aunt." "My sister?" Fu Bao had secretly looked at Tong Rui from the side. "I think I've seen this aunt before." Tong Rui let go of Tong Yan's hand and came to Fu Bao. She squatted down, looked at Fu Bao's face carefully, and then suddenly covered her mouth and laughed. "Of course I've seen her before. You couldn't walk at that time, but you saved my aunt's life. Do you still remember this?" The onlookers were a little dumbfounded. Old Lady Wan and Second Sister Wan remembered something. "Madam, have you been to the Qi before? I remember that year when we were exiled. We had the opportunity to go to the county town to buy things. At that time, Fu Bao saved a lady, and the lady gave Fu Bao a jade card. We used this jade card to buy a lot of things without asking for money. Could that lady be you?" Old Lady Wan remembered it clearly. At that time, only she and Second Sister Wan knew about this matter. Even Third Sister Wan and Lu didn't know. "Madam, you have a good memory." "That's right. I was murdered and was about to give birth. It was Fu Bao who found me and called my servants. I was able to give birth smoothly. It was fate and blood relationship that could not be erased." Tong Rui stood up and touched Fu Bao's little face. "Madam, my name is Tong Rui. You can call me a Rui like my sister. I came here to see my sister. I was relieved to see that she was fine." Mrs. Wan quickly invited people into the hall. There was a brazier in the hall and a thick cotton curtain on the door, which blocked a lot of cold. Banksia and Baiji brought tea. There was a female guest at home. Wan Lauer and Jia Yanbing greeted Tong Rui and left. After everyone gave up their seats, Fu Bao nestled beside Mrs. Wan and looked at the women in the room. These were her relatives. "Aunt, is your child okay now?" Fu Bao still misses the child he never met. "He's fine. You meet him next year. But he's a little old. Not as lively and cute as you. You have to take good care of him when the time comes." Tong Rui thought of her little son, and a helpless look appeared on her face. Fu Bao smiled and said, "Okay. Is he a younger brother or a younger sister?" Brother. If he's a younger sister, he won't be so old. Sometimes I think he's an old man. I feel like he's older than me. Sometimes he even despises me. Alas. Tongrui sighed and said, looking like she had no desire to live. Which made Fu Bao laugh. Uh-huh. Then the younger brother must be very smart. Right? And is very smart. She only despises others if she's smarter than them. Fu Bao felt that this younger brother, whom he had never met, must be the same kind of person as himself. Well, if you say so, then it's true. He is really smart, and has a photographic memory. At such a young age, he can already make our family's account book clear. Now the accountant is afraid of him, Tongrui said, and she couldn't hide the smile on her face. Then my brother is a child prodigy, and he should be happy. Then why did you come to Daki? Fu Bao asked out of curiosity. But unexpectedly, Tongrui's face changed. Fu Bao, Auntie came to Daki to deal with some private matters. First, I sent your mother to see you. And secondly, it was for you and your mother's affairs. But it's not convenient for me to talk about these now. I tell you later. By the way, did you get the jade token? Tongrui changed the subject. Fu Bao knew that she shouldn't ask, so she immediately pulled out a red rope from her neck obediently. And one end of the red rope was the jade token. Seeing you wearing it, I feel relieved. At least, you and your mother are safe in Daki. I brought this for you this time. Tongrui took out a stack of house deeds from her arms. It was a really thick stack. Tongrui handed it to Tong Yin. Sister, this is the place I passed by when I returned to you state last year. I bought houses in some prefectures and prosperous counties. They are all named Fu Bao. This is my gift to my niece. When you want to go out, you don't have to stay in the inn. There are people guarding the house. You can move at any time you want. Tong Yin took the thick stack of papers and was dumbfounded. Array. You? Sister. I know you are going to say I am making trouble again. But what do we earn money for? Since you got into trouble this time, I have finally understood that money is just a thing outside of the body. I did not write your name on these deeds, because you are not a registered resident of Dachi. I wrote Fu Bao's name. From now on, we will just be happy. We will live as happily as we can. Our family is rich, and we have many houses to live in. If you are tired of living in this place, we will change the environment. You just need to be happy, and get rid of all the anger you have suffered in the palace over the years. Tongrui held Tong Yan's hand distressfully. Tong Yan opened her mouth, said nothing, and silently handed the deeds to Fu Bao. Fu Bao, this is a gift from your aunt. Please accept it. If it was given to Tong Yan, she would definitely not want it. But this was given to her daughter, so she could not refuse. Tongrui knows her sister best, and she will not refuse anything related to her daughter. Fu Bao took the title deed and saw that it was a large house with 5 entrances and even a manor. It was not a casual purchase. Even though Fu Bao had seen so many wealthy people, he could not imagine how much money the Tong family had. Aunt, how much money does our family have? Are you so arrogant? Fu Bao asked curiously. Tongrui burst into laughter when she heard this. My dear, remember this. As long as you are not comfortable in Dachi, I can buy an army to attack your dog emperor. But now is not the time to attack your emperor. I have to deal with the dog emperor of you first. Who made him bully your mother and you? Before, your mother was in their hands, and I was afraid to do anything. Now that your mother is free, I can let go and do something big. So you have to take good care of your mother for me, and wait for me to deal with the dog emperor first. Tongrui's words were very easy, as if dealing with an emperor was as simple as crushing an ant. But to everyone's ears, it was like thunder in the clear sky, and their heads were buzzing. Fu Bao, who usually looked like a little adult, was also shocked and stood there. Aunt, is this okay for you? Fu Bao asked weakly. Chapter 690 Becoming a Rich Woman on the Spot. Let alone Fu Bao. Everyone in the room was stunned. Isn't the Tong family too arrogant? But they can't control what the rich people want to do. But Mrs. Wan is happy. If the emperor of you is replaced, they don't have to worry about Fu Bao being captured again. Tongrui pulled Fu Bao to her side and held him on her lap. My dear, remember, you have not only your one family behind you, but also our Tong family. If anyone makes you uncomfortable in the future, you should tell your aunt. We must swallow our anger and fight back. Understand? Tong Yan shook her head and smiled bitterly. Arui, Fu Bao is still young. Don't teach her these things. Sister, you have become what you are now, because you never tell your family about anything. If you had told your family about your situation earlier, your father would have found a way to get you out of the palace. Maybe we would have found Fubao earlier, and you and your daughter would have been reunited. So tolerance may not necessarily bring you the result you want. Tong Yen was speechless by her sister's words. She was indeed bound in the palace. Now every breath she takes is the taste of freedom. She likes her current life very much. She is carefree, without any constraints, without intrigue, and with her daughter by her side. Fubao looked down at the house deeds one by one, and suddenly found a very familiar name. This, Aunt. Did you buy this Qingxiang garden in Dizhou? Fubao took out the deed and asked Tongrui to confirm it. Tongrui took it, glanced at it casually, and nodded, yes. This is just one of them. I have opened several gardens in other places that are larger than this one. Oh, by the way, you have recently opened one in Beijing. It is located in the suburbs of Beijing and occupies a larger area than these in your hands. It's just that the construction period is slow. It is estimated that it will be completed in May next year. But that garden is also under your name. Fubao simply admired her aunt too much. Aunt, is your gift a little too big? How much does the garden in Beijing cost? Not much. Just 1 million taels. Tongrui spoke lightly, as if she was talking about something insignificant. Mrs. Wan and Mrs. Wan almost slipped off the stool. Even Chui, who was once wealthy, could not hold back. She looked at Tongrui in surprise. What was the origin of the Tong family? 1 million taels was a considerable expense for the Jia family in its heyday. However, the Tong family used 1 million taels to build a garden. This, Chui lowered her head and thought about her own thoughts. After hearing this, Fu Bao immediately felt that the garden he had visited in Dizhou before was probably as small, which compared to this one in the suburbs of Beijing. I have been to Qingxiang Garden. The garden is really well built. I went there with my elder brother. My elder brother also found his marriage partner in the garden. It is said that my aunt's garden is still well built, Fu Bao said with a smile, hugging Tongrui's neck. Tongrui reached out and touched Fu Bao's forehead. You little shrew. But the garden is now under your name, and all the income is yours. If you have time to go to Texas, go to the garden again, check the account book, and collect the money. Since the opening of the garden, I saw the letter sent back to me by the manager saying that the income is about 5,000 taels of silver every day, and they also held a meeting at the end of the year, and the income should reach a new high. My preliminary estimate is that it should be more than 1 million taels, which is the New Year's money that your aunt gave you. Fu Bao didn't expect happiness to come so suddenly. She didn't do anything, and overnight, she became a rich woman with houses all over Daki and 1 million taels of silver. Aunt, are you the god of wealth incarnate? Fu Bao looked at Tongrui with starry eyes, making Tongrui laugh. You little rascal. That's enough. I have something to do in the capital. Now that I see you and your daughter are safe, I feel relieved. I'm leaving now. If you encounter any problems, you can use this jade token to find someone. Your mother knows what kind of business our Tong family is engaged in. Let her tell you slowly. After Tongrui finished speaking, she put Fu Bao down and stood up. Old Lady One also stood up quickly. In less than half an hour, she heard about the wealth that she would never dare to hope for in her life. At this time, she had a new understanding of the Tong family and a clearer plan for Fu Bao's future. It turned out that Fu Bao was extremely rich when he was born. From Old Lady One's point of view, she felt that the identity of a princess was an insult to their Fu Bao. This princess is a shackle, and it is better to be the granddaughter of the Tong family. Madam Tong, it's the end of the year now. You have a long journey to the capital. Why don't you spend the new year at our house? Madam, thank you for your kindness, but I have something urgent to do and need to rush to the capital as soon as possible. I will come back to bother you after I finish my business. My sister has been bothering you a lot. I brought you some gifts as a thank you. Thank you for taking care of Fu Bao for so many years. She has grown up well. I can see that she is very happy in your house. Tongrui waved her hand, and the people outside immediately filed in. Soon, the room was filled with various gifts. Mrs. Tong, you are too polite. Fu Bao has a fate with our family. You know that Fu Bao has a special status. It is not us who have taken care of her over the years, but she has helped the family a lot. If it were not for Fu Bao, our family might have died on the way to exile. How could we have such a good life today? If we want to thank you, We still have to thank Fubao. Old Lady 1 said sincerely. She took a look at the gifts sent by Tong Rui. Without opening them, she knew that each one must be very expensive. The top dozen pieces of cloth alone were brightly colored, with patterns and styles that she had never seen before. Not to mention the materials. In such a dark room, they were all fluorescent. I don't know what was mixed in them. It must be worth a lot. In Chi, the more fancy the cloth is, the more expensive it is. Some single-color black, white, and gray ones are relatively cheaper. No one in poor families can afford colorful clothes. Tong Rui looked at Fubao and smiled. Madam, no matter what, you saved Fubao's life. How can the friendship between us be compared with these material things? Don't you think so? Mrs. 1 also smiled and nodded. Madam Tong is right. Friendship is the most important. Then, Madam, I will take my leave. We will meet again. Mrs. 1 sent Tong Rui to the gate. Seeing 3 carriages outside, Tong Yen was a little reluctant. Sister, are you going out with these people? Tong Rui looked at her sister's reluctant expression and stepped forward to hold her sister's hands. Sister, how could that be possible? I didn't want to disturb the neighbors, so I didn't let Anan and the others into the village. They were all waiting outside the village. I think the village has a strong sense of defense. It's so cold today, and there are patrols at the entrance of the village. It took me a lot of effort to get in. I feel relieved that you are here. Tong Rui thought of being interrogated when she first entered the village, and couldn't help but smile. That's true. When I first came here, I was also interrogated many times before I was let in. Tong Yen said with a smile. Sister, I will finish my business soon and come to pick you up. You can rest here and recuperate. Give me 2 years, and I will make sure that you and Fubao will no longer live in hiding. Tong Rui gently hugged Tong Yen, then turned around and stepped onto the carriage. Tong Yan's eyes were red, and Fubao felt her mother's emotions and hurried forward to hold Tong Yan's hand. Mother, you still have me. Tong Yen bent down and picked up Fubao. The two watched the carriage slowly leave the village until it disappeared. It really came and went quickly. Chapter 691, Welfare. After Tong Rui left, the group returned to the house. Grandma Wan looked at the room full of gifts and felt a little embarrassed. Ian, these are all sent by your sister. Why don't you keep them yourself? Our family doesn't take care of you and Fubao for anything. Tong Yen stepped forward and helped Grandma Wan sit down, smiling and said, Aunt, these are all little gifts from my sister. Please accept them. Ali and I have been living in your house for free for so long, and you not only don't despise us, but also treat us so well. These things can't express my gratitude even 1/10,000. Grandma Wan patted Tong Yan's hand, knowing that if she continued to talk, it would be awkward. So she smiled and said, Okay, then I accept them. Next spring, these cloths will be given to your sister-in-law. I make you some clothes. I think this material is just right for spring clothes. And don't bother your sister-in-law. Didn't you say your grandson will get married next year? I'd like to go to Dijon with you. There's an embroiderer there. She's from our family. We can take the fabric to make new clothes for all of us. Although General Wan married the daughter of a third-rank official, our family is not bad. Right? Tong Yen didn't say it in detail, but Old Lady Wan could hear the meaning. As the saying goes, clothes make the man, and saddles make the horse. They should really pack up to attend Wan Quan's wedding. Then I bother you again. Aunt, you didn't say anything when I bothered you. Everyone was also talking and laughing, and the atmosphere was peaceful and warm. Oh, my rice cake. Second sister Wan slapped her thigh and remembered that there were still colorful rice cakes in the kitchen. Oh, go and have a look. Old Lady Wan also remembered. A group of people hurried into the kitchen, only to find that Ho-Hot had been guarding the kitchen. Grandma, Aunt, what's wrong with you? Ho-Hot asked nervously, seeing everyone's anxious look. She was a little puzzled. I said that without Ho-Hot, our family would be in trouble. Do you think I'm right? Old Mrs. Wan stepped forward and lifted the lid of the pot with a relaxed smile on her face. Yes, Ho-Hot is a great contributor to our family, the top leader inside and outside. During the time when my mother and I were sick, if it weren't for Ho-Hot, I don't know what our family would have become. So this year's New Year, Mother must give Ho-Hot a big red envelope. Second sister Wan also quickly agreed. Old Mrs. Wan smiled and glanced at second sister Wan. I will definitely give you a big red envelope. Can you run away? Second sister Wan stood aside and covered her mouth and laughed. This cake is steamed so beautifully. Everyone come and see. Old Mrs. Wan took a look at the 5-color rice cake in the pot, and couldn't help but admire it. Chui and Tong Yin had eaten colored rice cakes before, but this was the first time for them to make them by themselves. Tong Yin hurried forward to see what was going on. This is my first time making rice cakes. I didn't expect that the sweet and soft things I usually eat could be made in this way. I think making them is more fun than eating them. Old Mrs. Wan is a real farmer. In her eyes, these rice cakes are a symbol of wealth. But in Tong Yan's eyes, these are just fun. If it was in the morning, old Mrs. Wan would definitely think that Tong Yan was a spendthrift. But after Tong Rui's visit just now, old Mrs. Wan felt that Tong Yan was right to say anything now. He has money, and it would be enough to spend several lifetimes if he squandered it casually. Let's eat rice cakes today, and cook a few more dishes. I see the second brother is cooking a bed of green vegetables in the west room. It's hard to see some green in this weather. Let's cook some more green vegetables, and use some oil. I used to think it was good to have a full meal all year round. But now life is really good, and I'm tired of eating meat. The wrinkles on Mrs. Wan's face were all smiling. Mrs. Wan's second sister-in-law felt the same way, and Mrs. Chui could feel it a little. But Tong Yin didn't understand Mrs. Wan's feelings at all. Early the next morning, the third brother of Wan drove the ox cart back. It was already the 29th day of the 12th lunar month, and tomorrow would be New Year's Eve. The shops in the town were officially closed and couplets were posted. Mother! Second brother! We are back! Wan's third brother shouted at the door. But he didn't expect that it was Penelia and Angelica that ran out. Third master. The old lady and the second lady are frying New Year's goods in the house. They are too busy to come out. The servants are here to help. Wan Lao Sen said with a smile. Then Miss Banksia and Miss Baiji will have a hard time. Wan San's wife jumped off the ox cart and took the 2 children off the cart. As soon as the 2 children touched the ground, they ran to the kitchen. You 2 naughty monkeys. Run slower. Wan San's wife chased the 2 people inside. Banksia and Baiji saw that the ox cart was full of pork, and asked curiously, Third master, our family has already slaughtered a pig this year. Why are you still buying so much meat? Banksia thought Wan Lao San didn't know that the family had slaughtered a pig. These are what my second brother asked me to bring back. He said it was a dividend for the villagers. Everyone has worked hard for our workshop for a year. At the end of the year, every household will send some meat, which is also a token of their thoughts. Banksia and Baiji smiled broadly when they heard this. After they came to Shitsi village, they became more lively and cheerful. They especially liked the time when the whole village got together, such as when they slaughtered the New Year pig a few days ago. That scene was something they had never seen before. Lively and festive. Third master. Do you want me to notify everyone to come? Banksia asked immediately. Don't worry. Let's ask my second brother first. Will he personally deliver it to everyone? Or let everyone come to pick it up? I don't know what he thinks. Okay. Then shall we unload the meat first? Banksia looked at the cart of pork, which was at least 500 kilograms. Wan Lauer, Jia Yanbing and Old Mansion all ran out when they heard this. Oh! So much meat. Old Mansion circled the ox cart. He had lived in Shitsi village for several months. He had gradually become more and more adapted to it from the various discomforts when he first came here. He even liked this simple and honest relationship. The village was full of fireworks and vitality. Old Chen, you look better and better. Wan Lao San saw that Old Chen's face was rosy, except for his gray hair. He didn't look like an old man at all. It's because your family's food is good that I have gained weight. Old Chen patted his slightly protruding belly, looking satisfied. Old San, don't unload the meat yet. Put it on the ox cart. Let's go and notify everyone in the village to come over. Give each family 3 pounds, which is also our gift. Wan Lao Sen had no objection, and several people went to the village to notify. Not long after, all the villagers came to the door of Wan's workshop wrapped tightly. The workshop is now vacant, and it can be sheltered from the wind. The place is large and can accommodate the whole village. The children also excitedly moved in and out of the crowd. The villagers' loud chatter and the children's laughter kept interweaving in the workshop. There was no need to light a fire hall. The atmosphere was boiling, and everyone had a happy smile on their faces. This was the first time that Jia Yanbing saw a family leading a village to common prosperity. This deeply shocked him and made him more determined to pursue his dream. Chapter 692. The welfare distribution site turned into a criticism meeting. When Wan Lauer saw that everyone was present, the village chief also squeezed to the front. Jinju, I heard that you are going to share meat with everyone. The village chief looked at the cart of pork behind Wan Lauer, and his face was full of smiles. Wan Lauer said with a smile, Village chief, everyone has worked hard for a year. If it weren't for the help of our Shitsi village folks, how could our Wan family's workshop be so smooth? So the Wan family is what it is today. All thanks to everyone. As New Year's Eve is approaching, this is also a little thought from our family. There is not much meat, so each family will share a little. Okay. Jinju is really generous. The Wan family are all kind people. Jinju, it's not you who should thank us. It's everyone who should thank your family. If your family hadn't opened this workshop, the people in our village would still be hungry. Look, my wife. This year, she wore new clothes. She cried for several days because of this. This is the first time she bought new clothes after marrying me for more than 10 years. And our family can finally eat black flour steamed buns this year. And occasionally buy half a pound of meat to eat. The children have grown some weight. If it weren't for the workshop opened by your family, where can we find such a good job? Not only is it close to home, but everyone is familiar with it, and we won't be bullied. If you ask me, everyone should give gifts to your family. There were bursts of joyful laughter in the crowd, and the atmosphere was very warm. Fu Bao also ran around in the crowd with the children. The adults in the crowd became the hidden artifacts for the children to hide and play. They slipped from behind one adult to behind another adult, and suddenly appeared on the other side. The children chased and played with each other, and the adults did not stop them. It was almost the new year, and the adults were more tolerant of the children. At this time, a different voice suddenly came from the crowd. Humph. If our village hadn't protected the Wan family, how could they be where they are today? Do you know how much money their family has earned from the labor of our village? You guys are still trying to curry favor with them, and they give you a sweet date, and you are so fascinated that you don't know what to do. Right? The voice was not loud, but it immediately quieted down the originally noisy crowd. Even the children felt the change in the atmosphere between the adults and stopped moving. Chief Jean, although you are the chief of the Jean family and the oldest, and everyone respects you, you can't say something against your conscience. Right? That's right. There are quite a few of you Jean family members in the workshop. What do you mean by that? Chief Jean, you are old, and you haven't been out of the village for some years. Why don't you ask your descendants how much an adult laborer earns working outside? My eldest brother-in-law works as a laborer in the town for only 10 copper coins a day, and he has to rush to work. Otherwise, he won't even get 10 copper coins. Oh my God! 10 copper coins? We still have to do hard labor for a day? Then wouldn't it be too easy for us? We only do these manual labors for a day, and we get 15 copper coins a day, and 20 copper coins if we work overtime. Compared with this, the Wan family is really too kind. Right, Mr. Jean? We know that you don't want to rent the land this time. Seeing that everyone has rented out their land, you are not happy in your heart. But renting the land is voluntary, and it has nothing to do with the Wan family. You can't take this grievance out on them. Right? Everyone talked at once, and the old face of the head of the Jean family turned red. He raised his cane and pointed at everyone angrily. Okay. Okay. You are eating the Wan family's food now, and you are speaking for the Wan family. Sooner or later, you will regret it. Don't think I don't know what the Wan family is thinking. You are all blinded by the devil. Their family rents all the land. At that time, they will be the only one in power. The grain will be in their hands. The grain price will also be decided by them. You want to use the money they give you to buy grain? Starve you to death. The workshop suddenly became frighteningly quiet, and everyone seemed to have heard what Mr. Jean said. At this moment, a crisp and soft little girl's voice sounded. Grandpa Jean, it's possible that you're talking about this, but the premise is that everyone only collects rent. Now our family pays part of the rent and part of the food. No matter how the food price rises, no one will go hungry. So what does this have to do with a single dominant company? Even if it's a single dominant company, the money we earn is the money of those merchants and those who don't have land. Your worries seem a bit redundant? Grandpa Jean, if you feel uncomfortable, just say it all at once today. It just so happens that since we started renting the land, our whole village has rarely gathered together for meetings. If you have any opinions, just raise them in person. We are all from the same village, and we all know each other well. It will be fine if we talk it out. Fu Bao is doing this for your own good. You are old. You can't get angry. I am a doctor. I see that you don't look very well today. It is the new year. You must take care of yourself. Fu Bao is small, like a smart little rabbit in the crowd. He ran to Mr. Jean as soon as he spoke. And now he ran directly to him and hugged his thigh. Mr. Jean looked down and saw that it was the little girl of the Wan family. At this time, the little girl was looking up at him with her delicate little face, blinking her big eyes that could speak. In fact, he really loved this little girl from the bottom of his heart. She looked like a lucky doll, had medical skills, and had treated him. But the current matter did not involve personal grudges. He was just doing it for everyone's good. Mr. Jean looked at Fu Bao's face, and the heart in his stomach was full of tears. He wanted to vent his anger but couldn't, so he was forced to hold it in his chest, unable to get it up or down, and almost choked it out. Fortunately, Fu Bao was quick-witted and pinched his tiger's mouth, and Mr. Jean finally calmed down. At this time, Changsheng also said, "Uncle Jean, don't worry about us. You should take good care of yourself. Right? Although the Wan family came to our village later, everyone's mind is as clear as a mirror. After the imperial decree of amnesty, are those who came to our village before still here? Only the Wan family stayed. After all, they are just like us, digging for food in the soil. Besides, what kind of family is the Wan family? We have lived together for so many years. How can we not know them? Let alone other things. Their well, since the water was dug out, has it always been open to everyone to use? Did they say anything?" Changsheng's words made everyone fall into deep thought. Mr. Jean was a little embarrassed. Changsheng's words made him feel like he was judging a gentleman by his own mean heart. Chapter 693. Grandpa Jean is in a coma. The village chief saw that Grandpa Jean was a little embarrassed. But he was his uncle after all, so he had to say a few words. The village chief coughed twice and said, "Changsheng, please stop talking. How could your Uncle Jean not know the character of the Wan family? He is just doing it for the good of everyone. Now that everything has been said, we will still be good villagers and neighbors in the future. Uncle, you have been worrying about our village all your life. Now it's time to enjoy a peaceful life. Besides, the price of grain will not rise. The Wan family and the county magistrate have a contract. Otherwise, would the county magistrate agree to the Wan family's doing this?" Grandpa Jean knew that his nephew was handing him a ladder. So he asked coldly, "Then when I asked you, why didn't you say it? You made me misunderstand the nephew of the Wan family. If you had made it clear to everyone earlier, wouldn't the land rental be smooth?" The village chief was very sensible and apologized immediately. "It's all my fault. Uncle, don't be angry with your nephew. If you have any concerns, say them today. Don't keep them in your heart. I still hope you live a long life." Old man Jean waved his hand. "Okay. Dynasties change, and children and grandchildren have their own blessings. I'm old, so I don't care. You guys can make a fuss." After saying this, Old man Jean walked back with his crutches and was supported by his youngest son. "Uncle Jean, you haven't brought your meat yet." Wan Lao quickly asked Wan Lao San to weigh 3 pounds of meat for him. "Jean Ju, I feel at ease when you have the villagers in your heart. I'm old and can't eat meat. My teeth are not good. You can give it to others." Old man Jean waved his hand with his back to Wan Lao. Wan Lao knew that he was still angry, so he hurried forward with the meat. "Uncle Jean, even if you don't want to eat it, your little grandson will have to eat it. This piece of meat is not much, but it's just a little gift from me. Your whole family also works in my workshop. I can't be partial to one and ignore the other. It's agreed that everyone should have it, and your family can't be left out." Grandpa Jean looked at Wan Lao's honest smile and smiled bitterly. "You young man. Okay, I take it." Grandpa Jean thought of the many men in his family. Although he made a lot of money in the Wan family workshop this year, he saw that several grandsons were going to get married, and there were places to spend money everywhere in the house. This piece of meat weighed 3 pounds. Thinking of the children at home, he finally didn't say no. Wan Lao watched Grandpa Jean leave with the meat, and then returned to share the meat with everyone. "Jean Ju, we are here to help you." Changsheng and the village chief walked to the front first. "Okay, more people will help, and everyone can go home and warm up on the Kong." Wan Lao was smiling and busy dividing the meat. Those who were watching the fun immediately ran home to get their own knives to help. The Wan family only had one knife. So how long would it take to divide the meat? It took half a day to divide and weigh the meat. And finally, there were still dozens of pounds of meat with bones left. Everyone picked fat and lean meat. And few people wanted bones. Finally, Wan Lao divided the remaining bones into several portions, giving one portion to the village chief, one portion to the brothers Changsheng and Changfu, and the rest to the village chief to take to Grandpa Jin's house. Dad, I go with you. I see that Grandpa Jin's complexion is not very good today, so I go and check his pulse. Seeing that Wan Lao was about to leave, Fu Bao ran out and held Wan Lao's hand. Wan Lao nodded. Okay, let's go together. I think your Grandpa Jin really likes you. Maybe if you go, your Grandpa Jin won't chase us out. The village chief smiled and said, My uncle is not an unreasonable person. Jin Ju, you worry too much. It was already late, and anxious shouts came from the Jin family's house. Dad, wake up. What's wrong with Dad? I don't know. He came back and said he wanted to sleep for a while. It's time to eat. I called him, but he couldn't wake up. Can't wake up? Couldn't it be? It happened that Wan Lao and the village chief came to the door with meat and knocked. Uncle Jin, I'm Jin Ju. Please open the door. Wan Lao slapped the door and shouted loudly. But no one opened the door after knocking for a long time. Village chief, Uncle Jin is not still angry with me, right? Wan Lao said a little frustrated. No, my uncle is not a petty person. He must have gone to bed. Right? The village chief also leaned over the crack of the door and looked inside. It's dinner time now. How could he go to bed? Their kitchen is still smoking. As soon as the two finished talking, the door was hastily opened from the inside, and a man rushed out and hit Wan Lao in the chest. Ouch! What's wrong? What happened? Wan Lao covered his chest and stood aside. Then he saw clearly that the person who came was Jin Li, the youngest son of Mr. Jin. Brother Wan Air? Why are you here? Grandpa Jin's youngest son Jin Li saw little Fu Bao standing next to Wan Lao Air. Little Dr. Fu Bao, you're here just in time. Go check on my dad. He can't be woken up no matter what. Jin Li was sweating profusely. If it weren't for Wan Lao Air, he would have wanted to pick up Fu Bao and run away. Uncle Jin Li, don't worry. I'm here to see Grandpa Jin. During the day, I saw that he didn't look very good. So when my dad said he was going to deliver meat to your family, I followed him. Let's go in quickly. Fu Bao explained a few words and walked into the yard first. Jin Li then saw a large piece of meat with bones in Wan Lao Air's hand. Brother Wan Air, I'm really sorry. I was too anxious just now and didn't notice that there was someone at the door. Did I hurt you? Jin Li scratched his head with an apologetic look on his face. Jin Li, it's okay. I'm wearing thick clothes. Let's go in and see Uncle Jin. Shall we? Okay. Jin Li immediately invited Wan Lao and the village chief to come in. At this time, there were already a room full of people standing in Grandpa Jin's room. Uncle Jin phone. I'm here to see Grandpa Jin. Fu Bao saw that there were a room full of people standing in the room, and she couldn't squeeze in at all. So she quickly shouted to Jin Feng, the second son of Grandpa Jin, who was standing outside. Jin Feng turned around and saw that it was Fu Bao, and quickly shouted inside. You all disperse quickly. The little doctor is here. This shout immediately cheered up the people in the room who were originally sad. Everyone turned back to look at the door and saw a small figure. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Jin Li also ran in from outside at this time. The men, women, old and young of the Jin family immediately made way for Fu Bao. Fu Bao took off his shoes and got on the Kong. Little doctor, how is my dad? We felt him, and he was still breathing. But why can't we wake him up? Jin Li followed Fu Bao and asked in panic. Don't worry. Grandpa Jin is fine. I give him acupuncture to relieve his qi and activate his blood circulation. After Fu Bao finished speaking, he took out his silver needle from his messenger bag and placed it on the Kong. She disinfected the silver needle skillfully and inserted the needle. After a while, Grandpa Jin's eyelashes really moved. It moved. It moved. Dad's eyes moved. Jin Li shouted happily. Others also hurried to watch. After a while, Fu Bao took out the silver needle, and Grandpa Jin slowly opened his eyes. You're awake. Dad? How are you? Dad? Can you see us? Dad? Are you hungry? Several sons of the Jean family came forward to ask. Uncles, Grandpa Jean needs to rest. You are too noisy. Go out. One person can take care of him here. The Kong is too hot. The old man has internal heat. Fu Bao touched the sweat on his forehead and frowned. Hurry up. Take away some firewood and get a bowl of warm water for Dad. Everyone else go out. The eldest brother Jean, she immediately followed Fu Bao's instructions. Everyone was busy again. Finally, Jean Li's wife was left alone to take care of Grandpa Jean. Everyone else went to the main hall. Several people knew that the doctor had something to tell them. Chapter 694. It's New Year's Eve again. Fu Bao led everyone to the main hall. And everyone sat down in order of importance. Fu Bao, how is your Grandpa Jean? Is there anything wrong with his health? Wan Lao was also very concerned. Fu Bao sat next to Wan Lao and replied, Don't worry. Dad, Grandpa Jean is fine. I just gave him an acupuncture. He just needs to drink a few doses of medicine and take care of himself. He can enjoy his old age without worrying about it. Fu Bao, what do you mean? If my dad continues to worry, will he? Jean Shi's face was not very good, and he was a little nervous. Needless to say, everyone understood the following words. And he must not have much time left. Fu Bao nodded. Uncle Jean Shi, as long as Grandpa Jean enjoys his grandchildren and stops worrying about trivial matters at home, I guarantee that he can live another 10 years. His physical foundation is still good, but his internal heat is too strong. In addition, he is old and his body cannot burn so much. Otherwise it will easily run out of energy. You should pay more attention to him, and don't talk about troubles in front of him. The sons of the Jean family promised again and again, don't worry. We will never let my father work hard again in the future. Thank you very much this time. Wan Lao quickly handed over the meat he brought. You can accept these, although they have bones. But they can be used to make soup for the old man, which is also a little thought from our family. The Jean family hurriedly declined. Jean Ju, to be honest, your family has helped our family a lot. My father, he is old and thinks a lot. You should not be like him in some things. We all know that you are kind-hearted. My father told us when he came back that he would rent the land to your family next year. Our land is sandwiched between everyone, and it is not easy for you to farm. He should have thought it through. But he still feels a little uncomfortable. So he is angry. Wan Lao hurriedly said, Don't worry. If the old man doesn't want to, you must not force it. It's just a detour for our family. Okay. We will go back first and don't disturb the old man's rest. If you need any help, just call me. Wan Lao stood up, said a few polite words, and left with Fu Bao. After returning home, Wan Lao told his family about what happened in the Jean family. And Mrs. Wan sighed. Alas, I can understand him. But at such an old age, don't worry about so many things. Live one day at a time. Like me. Now I feel that it is really good to be alive. Children and grandchildren are around my knees, and I see that each of them is gradually becoming successful. When I die one day, I can also give an account to my ancestors. Grandma, you are right to think so. You are enjoying your life now. You can live 100 years. Fu Bao rolled around in Mrs. Wan's arms, making her laugh. In a blink of an eye, New Year's Eve arrived. Early in the morning, the family of Mr. Wan took a carriage to Shitsi village. Mrs. Wan had looked at the door several times early in the morning. When Mrs. Wan saw Mr. Wan's family coming back, her eyes were so happy that they narrowed into slits. Big brother, I thought your family wouldn't be able to come back this year. But you're back after all the hassles. I wonder if your fourth brother and his family can come back. Mom, my fourth brother is in the capital city, and I don't think he can come back. Let's go in. Big brother Wan supported old lady Wan, who looked outside reluctantly. The snow in the village hadn't melted yet, and it was all white, except for the children running around outside. There was no one else on the road. The arrival of Big Brother Wan's family made the atmosphere of the new year even stronger, because there were many more people in the family this year. After the second brother Wan introduced them to Big Brother Wan, Big Brother Wan said with emotion, Our family is considered to be prosperous. During the New Year's Eve dinner, the fourth brother Wan didn't come back either. Mom, the fourth brother can't come back this year. But he is not alone. I heard that he and his second brother opened 10 branches this year. On the 26th day of the 12th lunar month, he had closed all the branches in the county town. It seems that all the managers were recruited to the capital city. They should celebrate the new year together and evaluate their performance. The eldest brother Wan is closer to the capital city, and Wan Shuang is in charge of a branch in the county city. It is not too much for him to know these. Old Lady Wan nodded. As long as it is not the couple. It will be lively with more people, and they will not miss home. Those managers are also alone. As the host, he should entertain them. We will eat by ourselves. This year, the number of people in the family has doubled. A total of 3 tables are set up. 1 for men and 2 for women. The 2 tables for women are set up in Old Lady Wan's room. 1 on the Kong and 1 under the Kong. Among the gifts sent by Tom Rui, there is a kind of fruit wine, which tastes sweet and not easy to get drunk. It was Tong Yan's favorite drink in the past. Today is the new year, so Old Lady Wan took out the wine. Today's meal was prepared by sisters-in-law Wan San and Wan Air and several maids. There was a large table full of dishes, and there was really everything. Fu Bao sat between the 2 mothers, and there was a full plate of food in front of him without him having to do anything. Fu Bao ate quietly, his mouth full of oil. After the New Year's Eve dinner, it was time to give out red envelopes. It was also Fu Bao's favorite moment. Although no one present was as rich as Fu Bao, she just liked the feeling of receiving red envelopes. There were several futons under the Kong. Several children took turns to kowtow and say auspicious words. In the end, everyone received thick red envelopes. There were more tricks to play with more people, and staying up late was not so difficult. However, Mrs. Wan hadn't seen the family of Mr. Wan for a long time, and she had a lot to say to Mr. Wan. So Mrs. Wan went to the West Wing alone with Mr. Wan. Mr. Wan, do you know that Quanner will get married in September next year? Mrs. Wan asked directly without any nonsense. Boss Wan nodded. Yes, I know. Quanner also wrote to me. What do you think? But I don't care what you think. We have already agreed to go to Dijon in May next year to help with the arrangements. Although your wife is a stepmother, she is also good to the children. We must go. Otherwise people will laugh at us. Boss Wan hurriedly said. Mom, we must go. But I still have work to do in the government office. However, I will let Shen go first. Since you have decided on May, let Shen go with you to prepare. I will go 1 month before Quanner gets married. You are going just like that? Quanner is the eldest grandson of our Wan family. Your first child. And a general. He also married the daughter of a 3rd-rank official. Don't you prepare anything? Old Lady Wan was a little disappointed. Boss Wan stammered for a long time before whispering, Mom, you know the situation in our family. Even if we empty our family coffers, we can't get enough betrothal gifts. And, Boss Wan said this, looked up at Old Lady Wan, and seeing Old Lady Wan's cold face, he continued, and Quanner said that he had prepared the betrothal gifts himself. Or Fu Bao prepared them for him, saying that we don't need to prepare them. Humph. Our family owes Fu Bao from the old to the young. And now Fu Bao mother is here. Although Fu Bao must be on our side. We can't bully a child. Right? I already know where Quanner's betrothal gifts came from. Fu Bao said that those things were given to Quanner. But with Quanner's personality, he will definitely find ways to make up for it from other places in the future. I just want to remind you first. Don't worry about Quanner's affairs in the future. Old Lady Wan is afraid that Boss Wan will not be clear at that time and disappoint the child again. Mom, don't worry. After Quanner gets married, we will come back and will never get involved in their affairs. Grandma Wan nodded. Okay. Just keep it in mind. Chapter 695 Jia Yanbing Layout. The days at the beginning of the year passed quickly, and it was March in a blink of an eye. The winter at the border is longer than that inside the border, and the frozen soil is now gradually melting. After a winter of snow and extremely cold weather, the pests that breed in the soil have basically been eliminated. The medicinal seeds planted in the field also began to break through the ground. I don't know who leaked the news, but those wealthy people and landlords all knew that the Wan family rented land to grow medicinal herbs. So the medicinal seeds were directly snapped up. Mr. Jia, I went to the field today and heard that everyone was saying that someone was also following our example to grow medicinal herbs. Wan Lauer hurried back and quickly drank a sip of water. Jia Yanbing said slowly. The opportunity has come. Wan Lauer didn't understand what Jia Yanbing meant. What opportunity has come? Mr. Jia, are you angry? Didn't you say that we will plant another crop of medicinal herbs this spring? Now the seeds have been bought by those rich people, and we have no seeds. Jia Yanbing laughed. Wan Air brother, don't worry. Sit down and listen to me. Wan Lauer sat down stupidly, confused in his heart. What else can he say at this time? It's good not to get angry. Second brother, drink some more water to calm down. Everything is within my expectations. And you don't have to worry about the seeds. Our seeds will arrive in half a month. The price is cheaper than what I bought last year. And it can sow more than half of our land. Wan Lauer was even more confused after hearing this. Mr. Jia, what do you mean? Why am I getting more confused the more I listen? Who leaked this news? Those herbal farmers don't know that we grow herbal medicine. I didn't tell them. So how did they know? Wan Lauer was full of questions and was anxious. Wan Er, I was the one who leaked the news. Jia Yanbing took a sip of tea and said lightly. What? You let it out? Why? Wan Lauer thought he was hallucinating. It was Jia Yanbing who said to keep it secret. So why did he let it out now? Isn't this contradictory? Wan urged. We kept it secret last year to attract the attention of the landlords and let them find out the news. Our land leasing is too eye-catching. Now not only the whole Jinwu town, but also the whole county is probably watching secretly. If it were you, would you be curious about what we grow? The land at the border is barren. What can we grow to keep the people from starving and willingly hand over their land to work for us? You are curious about. Those landlords were curious. When I first started renting land, I knew it was impossible to take over the land from those landlords. Even if I took it, the rent they asked for was higher than that of ordinary people. After all, many landlords' lands were registered with Yuan, and they were tax-free. So I thought of a way to cut off the firewood from the bottom of the pot. In fact, if they were not greedy, they would not fall into the trap I set. But if they united to compete with our family, then don't blame me for not showing mercy. They have been curious for half a year, and I guess they haven't had a good year. Now I release the news. What do you think they will do? Second brother? Wan Lauer followed Jia Yanbing thoughts. If it were me, I would definitely plant medicinal herbs now that it's spring plowing season. But what should I do if I don't know how to plant medicinal herbs? Jia Yanbing nodded approvingly. Yes, they will invite people who know how to plant medicinal herbs. But how can they just invite people who really know how to plant medicinal herbs? I guess even if they spend a lot of money to invite someone, they are only half-baked. When autumn comes, those people's medicinal herbs will have problems. And then, they will lose all their money. Those rich people are just rich. But a year's loss will drive them crazy. The more they want to recover their losses, the more likely they are to make mistakes. Don't blame me for taking advantage of the situation then. After hearing what Jia Yanbing said, Wan Lauer looked at Jia Yanbing in shock. Mr. Jia, what will be their final outcome? Humph. Of course all the land will belong to us. And the entire Jinwu town will become a major medicinal herb grower from now on. This is just the first step. We will use half of the land outside the pass to grow medicinal herbs. Wan Lauer looked at Jia Yanbing's high-spirited aura, which was completely different from his usual gentle and elegant image. Perhaps this is the real head of the Jiang and Jia family? Is this too cruel for them? Wan Lauer felt indescribably uncomfortable. Brother Wan, if they were not greedy, nothing would happen. From the beginning to the end, we did nothing. You will know in the future that their methods of dealing with you are much more cruel than ours. Compared with their methods, ours is already considered mild. Wan Lauer didn't understand that what Jia Yanbing said now would all come true in a few months. Because Jia Yanbing had seen through human nature. So we don't do anything now. Wan Lauer continued to ask without giving up. What can we do? Just do our own job well. If others don't provoke us, we will do our own things. If someone takes the initiative to find fault, you can't be soft-hearted. Wan Lauer waved his hand. No. No. I am still only suitable for farming. I will go to the field first. Wan Lauer almost ran away in fear. The field was full of villagers working in the field. Everyone took the initiative to greet Wan Lauer when they saw him. The potato flour workshop had stopped working, and the people were all engaged in spring plowing at this time. Even if everyone rented the land to the Wan family, they still had to earn wages, which were 15 copper coins a day. Uncle Jean? Are you feeling better? Why did you come to the field today? Wan Lauer saw Grandpa Jean surrounded by his grandchildren at the end of his field. After several months of treatment, Grandpa Jean is now back to his rosy complexion. Jean Ju. I feel much better. Thank you, my daughter. Otherwise, I might not be able to live for years. Grandpa Jean has now completely let it go. Uncle Jean, You are blessed. Your children and grandchildren are all filial. Look, you are in much better spirits now. You can live to be 100 years old without any problem. Wan Lao exchanged a few words with Grandpa Jean and left. Grandpa Jean looked at the back of Wan Lao going away and felt a lot of emotion in his heart. Now that their family's land has been rented out, he felt much more relaxed. Although the children are doing the same work, they no longer worry about it. After all, the rent has been paid, and they will get 30% of the output of the land, and they will also get wages. It feels that this is more secure than when they were farming by themselves before. In the past, they had to pay taxes to the court even if they didn't harvest any crops. Now, not only do they not have to pay taxes, but even if they don't harvest any crops, they still have basic land rent and wages, which will not let the family starve to death. Grandpa Jean was very emotional at this time, and often told his sons and daughters-in-law that the Wan family was a kind person, and he had been too careless before. Such a good thing. If they were not from their town, it would really not be their turn. Now that people from other towns have heard about it, many people have come to inquire about the situation and ask if the Wan family will rent their land. Everything was as Jia Yanbing expected. Within 3 years, most of the land on the border would be in the hands of the Wan family. At that time, they would have some pricing power over the prices of medicinal materials. This was exactly Jia Yanbing's goal.